I think about, does love still exist? Yeah, I have my doubts. On the street, I check out how brothers be living. Yo, let's just say, kid, it ain't no Thanksgiving. We got people shooting dope, ain't never heard of hope. We got others with the gat and the brothers with the fucking scope. As I enter the project center rec rooms, some brothers might see the doom. I see my nigga Paulo, fat pockets of papes. He knows the neighborhood biddies with all the dopest shapes. There goes Rollo with the blowout fro. He's got a gap, hey yo niggas gots to go. No show is live with narrating, fuck Memorex. My nigga Rollo's got a gat at Paulo's chest. One slug blasted out, down boy died. Now show me some love, kid, it sounds like a fucking
yes, you
lie.
know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong.
Sometimes I think how the world come to this, a place where every man and woman needs a therapist. Mass confusion, people living in delusion, justify all the bullshit through the Constitution. Meanwhile, the masses struggle to survive. I think we're too busy to hear our people's cries. Singles mothers struggle to raise families. Genocide committed through famine and disease. I wonder if these things will ever cease to exist. I know it could if we cease and desist. Giving all the power to the industrialists, giving all our power to the damn commercialists. They see us just as being sheep in this world. They want us to do what we're told, like boys and girls. Oh God, I wanna live another day so I can help provide equality
And
this
yes, you know
day.
the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. Though we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong.
Everybody around the globe, open up your earlobe, your third eye, and then decipher the code. Through knowledge, understanding, then bring love into the concept instead of bling bling. Truth instead of biased educational methods. Twisting, contorting God's message of love for every human being. Listen, motherfucker, don't you hear the screams? It's time to do much more than talk, debate, and spread hate. We need to think and at the same time investigate. Understand what our actions may create. Before continuing the cycle we procreate. We can clone humans, but at the same time we can't feed humans. The future of man is actually looming. It's really depressing, it's true.
And yes, you know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong.
One, two. All right, y'all. Back at it again. This is V Media. It's Wednesday the 11th, February 9th. February 11th. I'm sorry. Wednesday, 0909 Central European Time. That would make it 0309 Eastern Standard Time in America, and between 12 and 1 same time. Oh, it's what am I saying? Yeah, 12 and 1 Pacific time. Sorry about that a rough beginning. Hope everybody's doing well. My goodness, it is. It's this is the fast moving train, the Trump Epstein train, and the Epstein administration is basically what I call it. And what's up, Rafika? And what can you say? Flipping out. What can you say? I mean, it's just more shit is getting revealed by the day. Is this trickle out theory supposed to get people to stop watching and stop listening? It reminds me, Todd Blanche said the other day, he doesn't think that, that the release of the files is going to really quench anybody's thirst. Yeah, you don't say so. You don't say so. He was absolutely right, because the bottom line is this shit is about taking over your goddamn country. If you figure out what the hell they've been doing, I mean, it is just totally devastating. It undermines democracy 100% anywhere that it goes, let alone, I mean, that's literally what it was about, undermining democracies. But its home base was the United States of America. I mean, Epstein, or the Virgin Islands too, one or the other. It was the United States, and then they took advantage of the Virgin Islands, basically, Virgin Islands, they need money. They need jobs. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to say no to Epstein having a bank there or Epstein doing something there, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, after all, what the hell is the U.S. government doing for the U.S. Virgin Islands anyway? It's not the same scenario as Greenland. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So in any case, yeah, and I mean that they don't even. I mean, they're American, but they don't really even have a voting right in the Congress or the Senate. So what the hell is that? You see what I'm saying? Like it's been an injustice. So you know he used that as a little base point, but it's still in the U.S. You know he can kind of get around some things. But in any case, having said that, I mean this shit really is about undermining the United States of America and any place else that wants to be undermined through the honeypot scam. You know what I mean? And not just honeypot, because honeypot sounds good. We talking about, let's just call it child trafficking, molestation, brutalization, child torture, slavery, child slave, pot. That's a better name for it. Child slave pot, because that's what they were. And they were brutalizing these kids too, man. I mean, so many little pieces of information has come out, and it's like, this is not some little innocent thing. Like, according to some of the victims, they were literally brutalized. According to some of the victims, some young kids actually died, you know, and these fucking men, you know, have the nerve to just sit back there and act like they're so entitled. Like this is what people in democracies want these days. You know, these dudes, man, they're treacherous. They are treacherous, like from back in the day. You know what I mean? These are not modern people. You know what I'm saying? These are not people that you could tell that because they don't have empathy for what they're doing. It's like the slave days. It's like they think they can brutalize people's bodies and that it's just going to be like, okay. That's literally what they can get away with it. They just rich, and they got the judges, and the judges just go along with it. Ain't no big deal, you know what I'm saying? We just go. That's how it's always been, man. Yo, people don't want that. Young kids in the United States of America are tired of the U.S. fucking being last when it comes to education, being fucking last when it comes to goddamn healthcare, when it comes to access to buying a home, being able to earn a salary where you could buy a home. Young people are fucking tired of being last in the Western world. Americans are tired of being last in the Western world, and they're starting to figure it out. I mean, with the advent of the internet, they get to see what other people live like. They get to hear what other people live like. Excuse me. It's not like it's far away anymore. I mean, now people have friends in different countries. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal to have a friend in another country these days. And, you know, 20, 30 years ago, that was a big deal. And before, that was an even bigger deal, right? But today, that's just open up your phone and there's your friend in another country, right? Telling you what it's like. I mean, and, you know, it is so backwards. I mean, we are so behind as a country. We're so behind. We have old fucking men that are perverts, that are pedophiles, that are sick. We got Howard Lutnick, and his name is really just disgusting. You know what I mean? But we have these kind of people that just drag their asses out there in front of the American people and tell the same old lie, have the nerve to get paid tax dollars like you don't work hard enough. Like you don't work hard enough. They have the nerve to come out there just every day and fucking lie. I mean, they really feel they are entitled. And I'm going to tell you, people, don't let them, you better straighten that shit out like right now, because you will be the only people in the Western world. And I keep saying Western world because I understand different places don't feel like democracy is all that, right? Isn't that right? Isn't that right? There's a lot of places where you hear this kind of story like, no, democracy is just a way to, you know, for the West to force people. Okay. Hey, let's leave that alone then. Fuck it. Let's leave them out of the picture. Y'all do what you want to do. And if there's some sex trafficking over there, I'm going to let y'all handle it. But in the Western world, you know what I'm saying? Where the U.S. finds itself, motherfucking healthcare and paid education, you know what I'm saying? Child care, there's a lot of things that's supposed to be that are normal in the Western world that the United States just simply doesn't fucking have. Like, and it really just it really pisses people off, because then you see who has it, and it's people we paying our tax dollars to. They all have it. They all have it, and then they got the nerve to go beat and brutalize and rape some kids. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, then they got the nerve, you know what I'm saying? They already got the money, but then they got the nerve to want more. And make no mistake about it, Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump are a threat to the world. Like, if they would operate this way, and whoever else was down with them, if they would do these things that are being said that they have done, they are a fucking danger to the civilized world. Like, make no doubt about it. If you let them come to your town and look at what they did. Look at what they did. I mean, it's not even, half of it is not even come out yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's trickling out. It's trickling out day by day. And it's such a ugly affair. But before we get into that, I wanted to start off with something positive because, it is rough to always, hear the downside. And and so even with the trickery, even with these people out there trying to trick the American people out of a vote, doing everything they can out of a vote, it appears that the American people are actually are really standing up for themselves and ain't having it. Like, yo, it's going to be a vote. It's going to be a midterm election. And whoever dares get in the way of the American people is going to get stomped on. You see what I mean? Like, people are so pissed off right now in the U.S. It's going to be loads of people hitting the election booth. But don't count on it. So make sure you're registered. Go to your state, because it's the state who runs the elections. Go to your state board of elections. Contact them right now, today. Make sure you are registered to vote and ask them, what guarantees will I have that my name is on this motherfucking registry on this goddamn day? And do I have to come back twice? Because I'm a taxpayer. Should I have to come back twice? Or can you do your goddamn job and guarantee it? And if it's not guaranteed that this is safe, what are you going to do about it? Like, people need to take this. They're paid for by your tax dollars. They're your employees. Make them get busy on making sure that this shit happens so we can get some new leadership in the United States of America. People don't want the Epstein administration anymore. That's very clear. But in any case, there's some signs that the shit that Trump is on ain't working. So let's hear from Mark Elias and see what he got to say at Democracy Docket real quick.
Follow along with me. But before we get into any of that, subscribe to this channel to stay informed about how you can defend democracy. The biggest mistake people make about Donald Trump is thinking that he really cares about policy, when really all he cares about is power. He wants to be an authoritarian. He wants to get his way. He wants to benefit financially and personally and his family and his friends from the trappings of government. He wants the powerful to bow down to him. He wants the richest Americans to kneel. He wants corporate America to beg. But the biggest threat to that are you and me, the voters.
Facts.
Yeah, that's right. Free and fair elections are the thing that Donald Trump worries most about. That's why election denialism is so central to who he is and to the MAGA faithful. He needs to deny that he ever lost elections. And he needs the pretext to try to overturn them when he does. Remember in 2020, it started with lies. It progressed to court cases. Then eventually it led to violence on January 6th. Well, here we are 9 months out from the midterm elections, and we've already started to see that progression. It started with redistricting. That's right. Before we got to any of the current craziness about ICE at the polls, about taking over vote counting, about seizing ballots, Donald Trump thought he could rig this election by having Republican states redraw their maps in the middle of the decade and guarantee him a victory. So let's go back in time and start with Texas. It all began in Texas when last spring and early summer, Donald Trump convinced the governor there to call a special session
And
for
look,
the purpose of redrawing the
now check this out. This is very interesting because in Texas, what's coming out right now also is the Rancho that is it Texas? Is it Texas? Let me see here. 2 seconds. Where the hell is that ranch at? Del Ranch? No, that was New Mexico, next to Texas, right? A couple of stops over, right? But in any case, you will get to hear how casually Trump and how they do things. And when you hear about what he was doing in New Mexico at this ranch and this thing with the emails and all of that stuff with the FBI, right? Because that's coming up. It will give you an idea of how just outright arrogant he is with meddling with shit. Like, and when you see how much they were able to twist things to their own way to protect Jeffrey Epstein, because yes, they protected him. Donald J. Trump protected Epstein, right? When you hear that, then you will understand why he's willing to just pick up the phone like that and try to get someone to find him votes, right? He's used to doing it. He's been doing it the whole time. It's just that people didn't know. Here we go.
The congressional map. Remember, Democrats walked out of the legislature. They tried to delay it. They tried to stop it. But in the end, Donald Trump got what he wanted. He got a redrawn map in the state of Texas. Now, look, my law firm, we went to court. We actually won at the trial court.
All right, so
the U.S. Supreme Court overturned that victory.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Mark Elias, he's actually at Democracy Docket, but he has a law firm, a huge law firm, and he works with a lot of lawyers, and they've been fighting cases across the country, right? So they're not just sitting back, bitching about something. They're actually out there fighting. And if you're a fighter, you might want to know who the fighters are, right? So here we go.
I still think we were right. But in the end, Donald Trump got what he wanted, which was the new map. And it is described as a +5 map for Republicans. For our purposes, we'll call it a -5 map for democracy. Donald Trump gained 5 seats, democracy lost 5 seats. That was the narrative that the legacy media wanted to peddle to you. That was what the Republicans wanted you to believe because they want.
See, what's happening is that in the United States, people are figuring out that the trolls are out there. That's part of the game. That's part of the Russia scam game, the Epstein party. You know what I'm saying? The Epstein administration is heavy on trolls on the internet, but in the streets, they nowhere to be found. In the streets, they are nobody. They don't even come out to play in the real streets. It's only the internet, right? So that doesn't work at the voting booth. Check this out.
Wanted you to be dispirited. They wanted you to give up. They said they won 5 seats. Well, let me ask you this. How do those 5 seats look right now?
We're entering a new
That is crazy. Hold up. Damn, that is crazy. He said, how does those seats look right now? Watch this. Peep game. Check this out.
What are you hearing from Republicans in Texas now? There's a lot of nervousness going on in the Lone Star State on the Republican side.
Dylan, what's up?
Because in some recent special elections, including the most recent special election for a state Senate seat, all of a sudden the politics of that state look very, very different. And all of a sudden they're
Look at this. Long story short, Trump tried to get Texas to redistrict. And do you know what happened? It backfired. That's how much people hate Trump in that red state now. It is crazy. Watch this.
Or -5 map looks a lot shakier. Because in that state Senate race, a Democrat won a seat in a district that Donald Trump had carried in 2024 by 17%. And the Democrat carried it by 14%.
You hear that? Exactly. That's how unpopular Donald Trump is, or anybody connected to MAGA, to the Epstein administration in Texas right now. Watch this.
Which means the district swung.
And we know trolls don't vote, so don't worry about it, trolls. Yeah, trolls are going to be trolls.
31 points. This map that Donald Trump had drawn, this map that Greg Abbott called a special session for, this map that Republican state legislators lined up like lemmings
some shit
to vote for. Well, you know what happens to the lemmings. We're going to see what this map performs as. But my prediction right now is that this is not a 5-seat pickup for Republicans. I'm not saying it's going to be a dummy mander or whatever phrase people use. I'm not saying it's going to completely backfire. I think we underestimate how much technology and data was used to make this map impervious to these kinds of trends.
Yeah, Chris says no Trump, no campaign 2028. Exactly. No Trump. FDT.
But no map is impervious to all trends among voters. I'm not ready to say that it won't net Republican seats, because it will. Like, we need to be realistic. But I don't think it's going to net them 5 seats. But what came after Texas, I think, surprised them. I think this was the part that the White House was not prepared for, which is that Democrats fought back. And specifically, they fought back next in the state of California, where Gavin Newsom and the Democrats in that state led a ballot initiative effort to draw a new map. And Republicans poured in money all over the place to try to defeat that ballot initiative, and they failed. And so the people of California adopted its own new +5 map. And I am going to call that a +5 map for democracy. I don't want to hear any of you complain about democratic gerrymandering. First of all, the fate of American democracy hangs in the balance. If we have 2 more years of Republicans controlling the House of Representatives, I don't know what's going to be left of American democracy. So we need Democrats to take control of the House, number one. Number two, the congressional map in California was initially passed by a commission. It was a fair map that Democrats have now made a slightly tilted Democratic map. The map in Texas, that was a Republican gerrymander from the get-go. That was drawn by the Republican legislature to begin with. When they added 5 more Republican seats, that was gerrymandering upon gerrymandering. So there's no equivalency. Plus, in California, it was done by ballot measure. The people had a say. They didn't in.
Oh, what happened? Daggone, did it freeze? Oops, what happened? Sorry about that. Oh, okay. I accidentally clicked it on it. Okay, sorry about that. Here we go. Let me let him finish this real quick.
Tilted Democratic map. The map in Texas, that was a Republican gerrymander from the get-go. That was drawn by the Republican legislature to begin with. When they added 5 more Republican seats, that was gerrymandering upon gerrymandering. So there's no equivalency. Plus, in California, it was done by ballot measure. The people had a say. They didn't in Texas. That was a +5 pickup in California.
You know what? And I think that kills them, because it shows you that, look, the people didn't even call for it. Something happened outside of the state, and it was Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't care what the people in the state wanted. He doesn't care about that. He wanted something, and he overrode the state, the will of the people in the state, and made something else happen. And that was very interesting. However, in California, they didn't do that. So, in other words, the morale is up in the blue. You see what I mean? Because the blue knows that at least people are coming to them, asking them what they want. The blue politicians, I mean, of course, they're not perfect, right? I mean, you can find with any politician, you're always going to find some things that you don't like, period. So don't think that you're going to find one that's perfect. There's not going to be one, period. You have to come to the game understanding that. But still, shit can happen if people want it to happen. You can make the things bend to your will. Now, but the reality of it is that, the blue is up because blue are being heard. The people are coming to the citizens and the residents of the blue, and they're exercising their rights. They're actually making gains by exercising their First Amendment rights. You see what I mean? They're making gains by saying what they want. That's actually democracy. When you look at the red, they're not saying anything. They're basically ducking and hiding, not even following the rules of democracy. The representatives aren't going to the states asking the people what they want. They're just not even active. They're playing on their heels. Right now, the red is playing on their heels. They're just only reacting to what the blue is doing. The blue has the ball, and the blue is dominating the court right now. Now, that's not a guarantee for a win, but blue is totally dominating the court. The red is doing nothing. at this point, but just waiting for blue to get tired and shit, I guess, which is not going to happen because the American people are not going to let it happen, because the American people know their lives literally depend on it. Their country literally depends on it. I mean, the stakes can't be higher. The game is about freedom or slavery. It really is. This is a game for your freedom. So, of course, citizens are going to be out there knowing, and it's only going to get more heated. But in any case, let me let him do this.
I mean, the same trends that are taking place in Texas in making that map not look quite so Republican, they're also taking place in California. And those 5 seats are looking awfully Democratic right now. So I think that's a solid +5. You know who else thinks it's a solid +5? Republicans. Because they sued and they sued and they sued and they sued. And I think I've run out of sued, but I think they sued more than I even just said. They sued in federal court in Texas twice. They sued in state court in California a couple of times. But their big fight, their big shot at trying to block this California map was in federal court in California. And they thought they had an inside track. Because even though they lost at the trial court, they thought the Supreme Court would have their back. I'm proud of the work my law firm did in defending the California map, and we won in the trial court. And this week, we won in the U.S. Supreme Court. Sorry, Donald Trump. You're 0 for 5 seats in California.
Exactly. And see, this is the thing about it. We can all talk about what could be done better. We could all talk about who, the Republicans or the Democrats, but let's talk about the attorneys that are fighting the cases inside of the courtrooms. Let's talk about them also, because they're not necessarily blue or red, even though, some may lean in certain directions. But at this point, you're talking about democracy, being argued. And what is the First Amendment? What are voter rights? What are voter rights supposed to mean in the United States of America, according to the Constitution? I mean, they're literally trying to challenge people's actual right to vote. American citizens' right to vote. Like, this is what's on the line. And, of course, we all know it's an election year, and it would be ridiculous to change rules of voting in an election year. We know that they said when Donald Trump was trying to run, they were like, no. He can't be sentenced to jail because he's running for office. You got to wait till he's done. You got to wait, to find out what happens to the election, or wait until he gets out. Then you can, give him some sort of punishment or this kind of thing. So because they didn't want to interfere with democracy. But you see, when it comes to the voters, you have to understand they put one man's right up higher than every other citizen in the country, because right now they're not even throwing that shit out of court just from day one. The court should have said, no, you can't fucking do that. But instead, they're actually going to hear it. You have to go to court to fight it off. I mean, this is it. So clap for Mark, because even if you're not a Democrat, clap for democracy. Clap for democracy. You see what I mean? Because no matter if you're a Republican or Democrat, you're supposed to be about democracy. You're supposed to. You see what I mean? And if you're not about it, if you're not about that Constitution and holding it up, if you're not about voters' rights, if you're not about the Bill of Rights, you're a traitor to the country. Period.
So those two are locked and loaded. Those are in the books, okay? California's map.
Facts, Angelo. It should be standard to vote. And as a matter of fact, we need to get more voting rights, because whoever said that because you get convicted of a crime when you do your time and come out, you can't vote? Whoever said that? Whoever said when you get convicted of a crime, you can't vote? Who the hell ever said that? And there's loads of people that are put off of the registry every day because there are felons and things like this, and have a hard time getting their names back in, depending on what state you live in. I mean, there's no other what other Western country does that? Doesn't let the people that get arrested of a crime vote? What sense does that make? That makes no sense. That's akin to slavery. Straight up.
Is now going to be the map. Texas map is going to be the map. There's no more litigation. So that is either 5 and 5, or, as I think, let's call it 5 for Democrats and 4 for Republicans. So that's a net of 1 for Democrats. You all probably know all of this because you're probably already subscribed to Democracy Docket, but if you aren't, you should be. So go ahead and click on the link in the description below and become a Democracy Docket free subscriber. And if you are, you'll be kept up to date on everything happening with redistricting and voting. And
Yeah, let me put his channel in the chat, right? Democracy Docket. So yeah, obviously they talking about the court docket. So people can follow his channel if you haven't followed his channel before. Yo, Dennis, she said, so Americans have fatigue for politics, but now realize the consequences of not voting. Exactly. Yo, 1/3 of the voting population did not vote in the last presidential election. And I'm sorry, but listen, it's okay to admit when you make a mistake. That's okay. People make them. Yeah, you follow Mark too. Yeah, exactly, because he knows what the hell he's talking about. But it's okay to make mistakes. What's not okay is that you duck your head when you make a mistake and don't own up to it and don't get busy and get back on the horse and start, riding that shit in the right direction. That's not okay. That's sucker moves right there, for real. You got to get back up and get active and recognize your mistakes.
elections,
Vote.
Democracy in court. So go ahead and click that link right now. But Republicans weren't done. They next went to Missouri and North Carolina. And in both states, they already gerrymandered maps. They targeted a district in the eastern part of North Carolina, a seat held by Congressman
Sizzle,
Don
what's up?
Davis, a Democrat.
Retrofitting door entry.
Damn, I'm sorry. I gotta be on the job. I'm sorry about that, y'all. I don't know why. You know what? I have to figure this out, how to stop this. But in any case, I like to. And this is a good breakdown of the status quo. What is happening right now, currently, in with the United States in terms of the courts, in terms of the voting rights, and this kind of things. So Mark is basically top in that.
Targeted the Kansas City seat held by Emmanuel Cleaver. And so that is in their book +2. I wouldn't count both of them out. I wouldn't count Don Davis out from winning that seat in North Carolina. And I'd never vote against Emmanuel Cleaver. Plus, there's also litigation in both states. There's litigation in North Carolina, and there is a lot of litigation going on in Missouri. But let's just, for simplicity's sake, let's give those two to the Republicans, and we'll call them -2 for democracy. Right? So remember, we have Texas -4 for democracy, right? Because I'm taking one back.
Yo, Sizzle Moon song. Yeah, if you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. Eldridge Cleaver, civil rights activist and Black Panther. Exactly, for real. And Black Panther Party was on point. They were active. And they understood the power of voting and also just being present in your communities, having programs in your communities, which is something that's coming back across. And, blue states are understanding that. I'm not trying to push the blue thing and say that no one else is doing it, but I think it's something that is becoming more entrenched in the Democratic Party agenda, like grassroots, from the ground up instead of the other way around, but yeah, Eldridge Cleaver and the Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton. I mean, one thing that I loved about them is that they understood you need allies. This is a real fight. This is a real struggle. And it's about human and civil rights. Everybody's human and civil rights. They didn't lock themselves into a corner. They actually called people up to the challenge, and so, yeah, big up to them. Big up to them for real. And they paid the price. They paid the ultimate price for civil rights, in the United States of America. So right now is not a time to, default on those rights,
California +5 for democracy, so that nets 1. Well, now we take away 2 more because of North Carolina and Missouri. So now we're at net -1. But then came Utah. Who knew? Utah. I knew.
You see this? So now net -1. So now look, Dems may take the majority even before in Congress, even before the midterm elections, and maybe in the Senate too. This is crazy because of all the special elections and people that are dropping out. But check it.
Democracy Docket subscribers knew. People who subscribe to this channel knew. That's right. If you follow this channel, you knew about Utah. If you subscribe to Democracy Docket, you knew about Utah because I've been talking about Utah. Republicans in Utah overplayed their hand. They violated their state constitution, and their state courts, including their state Supreme Court, was having none of it. And they ordered a new map that creates a Democratic seat in the state around Salt Lake City. So that's plus one.
Yep.
So now we're back to even. But then came New York. My law firm, we sued New York for violating the voting rights of minorities in New York City, specifically black voters on Staten Island. And despite all of the pundits' prognostications
and I have to say this, I really want it's important that no community falls for disinformation. It's important. So when you hear him, right, if you are black and you're an American citizen, don't believe him. Go research it. Because he just dropped your name. He just said, hey, we won a battle in the court for you. Now go find out about it. Don't just let it go through it one ear and out the other. Like, for real, like, go find out what is happening, because the last thing you want to do is be unaware of what's happening around you and falling for the okie doke in disinformation. Like, seriously.
in the state around Salt Lake City. So that's plus one. So now we're back to even. But then came New York. My law firm, we sued New York for violating the voting rights of minorities in New York City, specifically black voters on Staten Island. And despite all of the pundits' prognostications and
Staten Island, anybody been to Staten Island? Raise your hand if you've been to Staten Island. Me, I've been to Staten Island twice. Staten Island's raw. I went to the Staten Island. I went to the Wu-Tang shop when it was open on Staten Island. But I went to Staten Island before that. Before either Wu-Tang Clan ever came out with a record, I went to Staten Island on New Year's Eve to a party over there, man, in New York. It was actually some cool ass people over there. But in any case, you hear this, right? Staten Island's not a rich part of New York, but people are voting. This is blue collar. People are voting over there. And it matters. It counts. You see, the what people do in the courts counts. Having representation counts, and so what do you do when you get some? You back it up. You show that, you know what? This happened. Let's back it up because we need more of that. That's what you do, To
even. But then came New York. My law firm, we sued New York for violating the voting rights of minorities in New York City, specifically black voters.
Yeah, it was super right when you're right.
On Staten Island.
But Staten Island is like, a lot of places are changing now because, that shows you the tide can kind of change depending. You just need the right catalyst to get people to kind of cross over, right? It really does show you that Democrats and Republicans, generally speaking, are not that different. It's more about having politicians or people running for office that can gain their trust. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's pretty much what Trump has done. He's allowed everyone to see that, man, there's all these way too much corruption. They don't even believe in what they're talking about. They're just using us. They're taking advantage of us, using these talking points. And at the end of the day, they don't really care about us. I mean, all I want to say is that they don't really care about us. And that's really the truth of the Trump administration, the Epstein administration. They don't care. And I hope Republicans, young Republicans, and just Republicans from blue collar backgrounds, because everybody, listen, if you come from a blue collar background, middle class or poor background, it doesn't matter. Your skin color and all of that shit and your ethnicity, it shouldn't really matter, because they don't care about you. Like, they're not going to do nothing for your family. This Trump administration doesn't care about families, period. You see what I mean? So you have to stand together with the most common denominator. And the one common denominator that goes across the board is the class group that you're in. Middle class and poor people deserve more out of their goddamn tax dollars, you know what I mean, from the United States of America. And they deserve more out of our politicians, period. The wealthy people have gotten the best deal on the planet from the American people, and they abused it. They walked all over it. That shit has got to end, So, lock arms with the people most like you. Don't let the red and the blue confuse you. Think about the class too. Think about how your sister or your brother or your moms or your pops are going to live out through their life. Think about how your kids are going to have, live their life out. Do you want them to have a fair shot, or do you want them to be left behind for a bunch of rich assholes? Like, By no means should you vote for a rich asshole, regardless of what party, you know?
And despite all of the pundits' prognostications and predictions, we won. That's right. Legacy media said we had no chance. The usual naysayer said we had no chance. Well, you know who said we had a chance? We did. And our clients did. And you know who said we won? A judge in that state. Now, that case is going to get litigated up the courts in New York, and I feel pretty good about our chances. So we're going to call that a +1 for democracy. All right, so we're going to do this on my fingers. You got Texas -4. You got North Carolina -1. You got Missouri -1. But then to the plus side, you got California +5, Utah +1, New York +1.
Yo, wake up, mate. Wake up, mate says you always. Well, see, that's where you went wrong with the word always. So that means you're not even trying to be fair with a brother. You see what I'm saying? But I'm gonna entertain that comment anyway. But when you start off with always, you're bound to be wrong. You see what I mean? Because I'm just not that type of person. You know what I mean? But you always talk about America, but it's the entire West. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. I'm talking about America right now because the United States is the country that's not firing people that's been exposed in the Epstein files. The United States in the West is the country where we don't have health care for the middle class and the poor. Okay, the United States is the country where we don't have education for the middle class and the poor. Come on, man. We don't have child care for the middle class and the poor. I'm American. I live in a country that has that has those things. Am I not supposed to talk about that? You see what I mean? The United States is the only country that has Grok about to be inside the damn Pentagon. You want him to blow your ass up? You know, Grok is going to blow your ass up. It's not a joke. You think the rest of us doing, yo, listen, just stick with the first comment. Just stick with the first comment. I'm giving you the reasons. Pay attention to what I'm saying. You always talk about America, but it's the entire West. I'm answering that question. If Grok gets inside of the United States, the Pentagon, they are a threat to the entire fucking world. That's not happening somewhere else in some other country. You see what I mean? That's happening in the United States right now. You see what I mean? Yeah, Israel has universal health care. That's crazy. Exactly. So I do talk about a lot of the world, but here's the thing. I'm not trying to generalize the whole Western world either. I'm not trying to generalize it. Sure, the Western world has problems. They don't all have the same exact problem. Grok is Elon Musk, chat GDP, right? Chatbot. Yeah, exactly. It's one of his AI programs, you know. Now, but that's what it is. So, you know, I'm not saying that there's not problems across in different countries. And I'm also not saying there's not problems in every goddamn country. There's problems in every goddamn country on earth. And there's a whole lot of different problems too. You see what I mean? But Australia. Okay, now Wake Up Mate is saying Australia has health care, but we pay taxes on it more than what it costs us. Okay, well, that's great. That's great for you. But we pay a whole lot more than you pay and still don't get it. So I hope you recognize that, Wake Up Mate. You know what I'm saying? Americans pay more for health care than anyone else on earth. Okay. And on top of it, every American that pays taxes, 20% of their damn federal taxes is going to health care. They can't even fucking get. A lot of the Americans is paying for it. Can't even get access to it because then we got co-pays. Then we got deductibles, all that other shit that has to come after the taxes are taken. So just all due respect, my program is not everybody else's program. It's the programming that I'm doing. So come and give me some support, brother or sister. Try to support it. You see what I mean? Don't criticize so easy because you could easily get another channel that's not saying the shit I'm saying. You see what I mean? So that's all I'm saying. Like, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. I know why I'm saying these things. So yeah, but it's not for everybody's situation. That's for sure.
Which means when you take the 7 pluses and the 6 minuses, we net +1. But it's not over. In Virginia, Democrats are poised for another 4-seat gain. Now, there's a lot of things that have to go right here, and there are moving pieces. There are court cases. There are maps that have to be approved. There is a ballot initiative.
Hey, Tyrell Jackson, what's your real name, man? What's your real name, Tyrell Jackson? You asked, what do you think all of the Minnesota free childcare. Can you come in the chat with your real name and your real actual account? Because this account you got, excuse me, I don't even know who you are. I don't know what you think you're doing here, but you should really like consider the fact that people don't deserve this from you. Okay? People don't deserve this from you, brother or sister or whoever the hell you are. Maybe you have Tyrell Jackson, sounds like an African American name. You got a meme of Samuel Jackson up there. Man, you could be anybody with this account. Take that into consideration when you ask questions in the chat. You joined February 6, 2026. Okay? So like for real, like get real with folks. That's all I'm asking. Like, don't be a jerk. Get real, man. No, you ain't just asking a question. You're not keeping it real because you don't want nobody to know who you really are. Like, at least come in the chat with your real account. You know what I'm saying? Don't play games. You know? Now you here, but don't play games, man. Everybody needs to know you just opened up an account 2 days ago. Okay? Like go get your real account. Don't come in with your troll account. That's all I'm saying. You see what I mean?
In Virginia that has to be approved. But if all
and don't forget, the person who I'm talking to said, where do you think all the Minnesota child care money came from? Well, where do you think your account came from? Where did that go? Where'd your account go, man? Why it went to people like you stealing accounts? Got 10 accounts out there and shit. Ain't no more accounts left. Okay, what the hell? What if somebody else wanted an account and their real name is Tyrell Jackson? You just took their name. Goddamn, stop it.
Then Democrats would gain another 4 seats. And then offsetting at least some of that in Florida, where Ron DeSantis is going to call a special session, they're going to try to gerrymander yet again. Notwithstanding the fact that their state constitution doesn't allow partisan gerrymander, they're going to partisan gerrymander. And we're going to sue, and we will see how that shakes out. So it's hard to know what to do with Virginia +4, Florida maybe -3, -4. Let's just call that all a wash and leave it that Democrats wind up through all of this gaining 1 seat. How do you think Donald Trump feels about that?
Yep, exactly. Donald Trump hates that, but that's what it's going to turn out to be. You know, there is nothing that's going to stop these Republicans from losing all their power. And the reason why, again, this has nothing to do with whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. This has something to do with common sense. They know that this is the Epstein administration, and this administration has been about stealing the country from the average American person, the majority of American people, making sure that your tax dollars go to nothing that you need. Zero. No matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, your tax dollars, they're making sure none of it goes to you. It's all going in their pockets. And whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or independent, you should be ashamed of that reality. You should want to do something about that reality. And you shouldn't keep trying to figure out why Obama did this to you when Obama didn't. You know what I mean? You need to figure out how you got a pedophile that beats kids in the White House. You see what I mean? You need to figure that out. You need to figure out why his administration put Ghislaine Maxwell in a soft cell. You need to be pissed off about that, Tyrell Jackson. You need to talk about that in the chat, Tyrell Jackson. Okay? You see what I'm saying? Like, you need to get focused and talk about why gerrymandering is wrong. You need to say Donald Trump hands off the election, Tyrell Jackson. You see what I mean? And Tammy Anderson, X7Q. You need to be pissed off about that. But, you know, you guys are trolls. I'm going to go check and see when you open your account now. Don't worry. Let's get going. It is what it is.
About that is what I want to know. Like, whose fault is this? Because Donald Trump will never say it was his fault.
Exactly. Whose fault is it?
He'll never say,
Tammy,
I made the mistake. He's going to blame someone in the White House, someone in the Department of Justice, someone who he's going to say led them to open Pandora's box.
Look at this. Tammy Jackson. This dude is a liar. Tammy Jackson joined March 1st, 2025. Her account is not even a year old. Tammy Jackson. Thank you for your presence, Tammy. Is that your real name? Or is it even Anderson? Where do you come from? You know, are you where are you from? Where are you from? Just let me know. It's okay. North Korea, maybe. Where are you from? Is it North Korea? Are you where are you? How much are you getting paid an hour for this?
District, only to find out that at the end of the rainbow, it backfired on him. But here's the thing. That's done. But Donald Trump isn't. Donald Trump's got bigger plans. Donald Trump is going through the progression that Donald Trump always goes through.
Thomas, exactly.
Remember I said to you that in 2020, before the election, he badmouthed mail-in voting, tried to influence what election officials did.
Listen,
and after the
it's okay. We're going to learn something. It's okay to stop this program and go look and see who the hell is writing in the chat, because this is a fact that we live with in the Western world. The troll armies, the Russian troll armies, the enemies of the West, the people that want NATO to break apart, the people that want Donald Trump to invade Greenland, the people that want Donald Trump to bomb fucking Venezuela, the people that want Ukraine to be invaded. Yeah, that's what they want. Those people, they got mad. They pay for trolls. That was the biggest. Disinformation is the biggest weapon. You see what I mean? And they're going to be here up until this election. They're going to be here until we do something about it. And soon something is going to be done about it. You see what I mean? Where these trolls are going to be limited. But for the moment, they don't have the answer, but we're getting used to it. See, we can pinpoint what a troll is like, who a troll is, how they operate, what their goals are, just by witnessing it and pointing it out. So come on in here, trolls. Hey, Terrell Jackson, you good? Tammy, it's okay, baby. It's okay, Tammy. I mean, you don't know. Tammy could be in North Korea and the side of somebody. You know what I'm saying? Could be locked up and shit, getting your ass whipped and shit. You don't know. And Terrell, you don't know what Terrell could be. Terrell, man, where you at, Terrell? Where you at for real? Where are you? What country are you from? What's your ethnicity, Terrell? Because I doubt you African American. And if you are African American, man, stop being so scared. Put your real face up there, bro. Like, what is this about? Ain't nobody gonna hurt you, man. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to show who you are, Terrell. Tammy, you too, Tammy. Show who you are. Let people know who you are. Don't be afraid, none. You're welcome. You're welcome.
The election, he escalated that to lawsuits. Then after that came violence in the nation's capital. Donald Trump is going through that escalation process now. He's going through that progression. Start by trying to rig the maps. When rigging the maps doesn't look like it's going to work, what have we seen? Searching and seizing ballots. A dry run using the 2020 election in Fulton County for what he wants to be able to do nationwide. Setting the predicate to take over the vote counting in Democratic states and Democratic cities. You know, I am very mixed on the fact that the media keeps referring to this as nationalizing the election. It's not really that he wants to nationalize it. He wants Republicans to take over vote counting in what he said were 15 places. Now, he didn't tell us 15 places, but you and I can guess what those 15 places are. And by the way, it's not only going to be 15. It'll start with 15, but it'll grow to as many as he needs in order to try to rig the outcome.
Exactly. That's what it's all about, rigging the outcome. And he's going to continue doing that, or trying to do that, until he is shut down. So what that means is that people need to be prepared to come out in high numbers. People need to understand that he's going to try to stop voter registration. He's already said that. So you need to go out early and register to vote. You need to go out now and check your state and talk to your state voting, what do they call it, the electoral offices, and ask them what's going on, what is happening to stop Donald Trump from interfering with you registering to vote. You see what I mean? Because it's a crime. And if there is something happening, you need to demand that whoever does it is prosecuted. Right, period. You see what I'm saying? Like, but if enough people go out there and start registering to vote, none of that shit will have any effect in the end. You see what I mean? And right, you know, but of course there's a lot of people that don't even know what the hell is going on and shit, and they just like, okay, I trust Donald Trump, he's a pedophile, but I trust him with my kids anyway. Chrissy R1C 3PO must be Grok's wife and shit.
A Federal Bureau of Elections that is nonpartisan. No, he doesn't want that. He's not looking to screw with South Carolina's elections. He's looking to take over election administration in places where Democrats are in control and where Democratic voters could vote out Republicans. And this is a very dangerous situation that we're facing. Now, the legacy media treats it like it's just another day, of normalcy. Like, they are so far in the tank, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I'm not here to psychoanalyze them. I'm not here to say whether it's because the corporate bosses call down to the newsroom, or because the newsroom is just afraid of Donald Trump, or because journalists don't want to be sued. I'm not here to psychoanalyze it. What I'm here to say is that
Here, Chrissy. Here, Chrissy. She joined October 26, 2025. Chrissy ain't even 1 year old. Goddamn, Chrissy. Is this the only account you have? How many accounts you got, Chrissy? Come on now. Where you from, Chrissy? What state do you live in, and who is your healthcare provider, Chrissy?
coverage of Donald Trump's escalation from mid-cycle redistricting to seizing ballots to now saying again that the states are his agents for vote counting, which, by the way, is completely bonkers. The Constitution says nothing about the president having any power. In fact, in a case that my law firm and I won in federal court in Washington, D.C., the judge went out of her way to say the president has no role in federal elections. Yeah, you didn't see that reported, did you? Yeah, you didn't see that lead the news. You didn't see that on the front page of every newspaper. That they're not so eager to, put front and center. But it's true. President has no role. Constitution says that the time, place, and manner of federal elections is set by the states, that the only way the states' decisions regarding the time, place, and manner of federal elections, the only way that doesn't happen is if Congress, through legislation, comes to a different conclusion. So Congress could pass a law that says this is how you vote. In fact, Democrats over the last few years have been advocating laws that
Germany in the house. What's up, Earl Scott?
Make it clear that there are greater voting rights than some states right now provide. The Voting Rights Act itself was an exercise of Congress's authority over the states. The uniform election date, the fact that we vote for federal elections on the Tuesday following first Monday in November, that is Congress exercising its power. But it does it through legislation. And Congress has not legislated any of the things that Donald Trump now wants.
Exactly.
Donald Trump wants him to be able to swoop in and take over control of elections. Actually, what he said is he wants Republicans to be able to take over voting in 15 states, at his selection. That is not constitutional because Congress gets to decide whether to override the states, and it has not done so and is not going to do so. Democrats in the House and the Senate would not let that happen. They would filibuster in the Senate. I don't even think in the House they would get enough Republicans to pass a federal takeover in the House. So that's not going to happen. So when Donald Trump says he wants to nationalize elections, it's really important that we not fall into the trap of thinking that what he really wants is sort of these uniform guidelines. He doesn't. He wants him as a dictator, him as an authoritarian, him working with the Republicans to take over, to rig the outcome. So this progression that I mentioned starts with redistricting, right? We saw that. It starts with redistricting, and it starts with redistricting because, frankly, it is more normalized in our system, for better or worse, that there is partisan gerrymandering. So Donald Trump started with redistricting, the things I just listed, Texas, and then North Carolina, and Missouri, and soon.
All right, yeah. It's going on, and so listen. Yo, Scott. Yeah, I'm doing well. It's actually the morning over here in Copenhagen. It's 10:05, so I'm just getting off work actually. So I'm just coming in, chilling, doing my little, chill down. Get ready to take a little nap in a little bit. A couple of hours from now, I'm making some soup, so I'm just kicking back at the moment. Thanks for asking, by the way. But as you can hear, look. Mark has got it all sewn up. Listen, if you're not interested in the courts, what's going on in the courts, if you're not interested in what's going on with elections, if you're not interested in Donald Trump with the courts meeting the intersection of elections, then you probably wouldn't be interested in Mark Elias, right? But the truth is that he's one of the top attorneys in his law firm, has got cases all across the country on Donald Trump, cases that he's been winning, quietly as kept. A lot of people that don't vote aren't really interested in it. And you know who that could be. That, there's a lot of people that are targeted by disinformation and told that voting doesn't matter and things like that. And, and it's often because they're getting poor information, but in any case, now let's go over to the other stuff. Now that we see that it's not really working the way Donald Trump wants. And by the way, Republicans are turning away from Donald Trump. It's not just in the courts where Trump is losing a lot of cases, because he's not losing them all, but he's losing like 90% of them, right? But that's still bad that he even wins 10%, because the 10% ones have serious consequences, and are likely going to be overturned at some different time once some of these corrupt Supreme Court justices are not sitting anymore, like Clarence Thomas. But in any case, let's get over, since we got people that like Trump in the chat. Let's listen to what Sasha Riley said before we get into some of the names that were mentioned from yesterday, right, by Rokan, and also some of the information that's just come out about Rancho, what is it called? Rancho Zorro in New Mexico. Let's just remind people of who the president of the United States is and who the administration is. Here we go.
I can remember two specifically. A third one that I think, and I think I was around him more than just those 3 times, but only 3 times do I kind of remember. I can remember at one point him asking the people that were kind of running that party or whatever it was at that farm, he wanted to kill somebody. He wanted to murder somebody. And they said, hey, that's not this kind of party. You can't do that. And they, in lieu of doing that, they said, well, we've got some puppies. If you just want to kill something, we've got to get rid of them anyway. So I can remember him taking those puppies one by one, and like he snapped one of the puppies' necks. He cut one open and let it just howl and writhe in pain while it died. Held one under some water to kill it. He wanted to kill those puppies in whatever gruesome way, to experience, I guess, seeing them suffer in different ways. What his kink is, I guess, if you want to call it that, is watching people suffer. He likes to destroy people physically, mentally, during the process of the assault. That's why he stands out so much in my memory. And it's physical pain, and then it's also, degrading and all of that. But his thing was to just try to destroy human beings to the.
So you see, right? There's a lot of the trolls, obviously they don't have human emotions, right? So when they hear this, it doesn't hit them the same way. What comes off in their mind is that the guy's lying, prove it, things like this, right? But a human being can hear nuances from another human being because we're actually real creatures. You see what I mean? So we have empathy for life, right? Because we're not immortal ourselves, right? So when we see that and hear that someone else has been suffering, it kind of makes us think, and we look for signs of how is it, is this real? Is this fake? But a human being can tell those things, So you heard the things that he's been saying about Trump, and he's not the only one. But this is the person that he's talking about doing these dastardly deeds are Trump and Epstein. And he said that Trump was actually the boss. Epstein was the subordinate. That's what he said back, and he's talking about the 80s, the mid 80s. So he's on the Epstein Trump list very early in their relationship, very early in the activity, according to him, right? Now, this guy served in the military. Put a 1 in the chat if you served in the military, and state where you served at. Let me know your company also. Let's see, because maybe it's a lot of people in the military that come through here from time to time. But you know what I mean when I say that. I mean, do you think that this guy is going to just, come off of the mouth? Do you think he's benefiting? Notice Donald Trump has not sent him a cease and desist. Donald Trump has not sued him. Donald Trump has not even said that what he's saying is incorrect. You see what I mean? and he's actually corroborating things that others have said as well. He says a few different things. He added a couple of other things in there, but they're horrific things. Now, this man says, Clarence Thomas, this is why you got to vote, because look, when you get the control of the Congress, when you get the supermajority of Congress, you get the supermajority of the Senate, you can get rid of anybody you want. You can get rid of, for good, the president, and you can prosecute anybody you want. You can get rid of the president, the vice president. You can get rid of the head of any department that he is assigned. You can get rid of any Supreme Court justice. That's what voting, the power of voting, gets you when people vote and have a real objective. You can actually change the United States with a supermajority in both houses. You can actually say that you must have universal health care now. That can actually happen with supermajorities in both houses. You see what I mean? You can actually say higher education and education is free. Or you can even say it's paid for. You get a stipend to go to school. You can even say that if you want, if you have a supermajority. So American people got to ask themselves, do they want Epstein's running around with their money? Do they want Elon Musk running around with their money? Or do they want the school system running around with their money? Do they want a healthcare, a healthcare system that actually works and doesn't cost 3 times more or the most in the Western world? These are things that when you vote and you understand how democracy works in the U.S. specifically, then you know the power of a vote. You know what you have to home in on and try to achieve.
That he could possibly do it, which is why I attacked it.
Yeah, that's understandable. So,
I can tell you this: the last one, okay, so this was after they had killed the Samantha. This is the black girl that I made the one of the movies with.
Yeah. And these were. Let me just ask a question, just to clarify. So when Samantha was killed, these were all of these parties at the farm or similar locations to the farm?
So just keep in mind, right? He's not. I don't believe he's talking about rancho, whatever. But keep in mind that could also be interpreted. A ranch is a farm. You see what I'm saying? So the only thing that makes it rancho is the fact that it's in New Mexico. That particular one that Epstein had, but he had properties in many different places, and it all centers around parties. And they say this one, he's saying Donald Trump was at many of them. This guy says Donald Trump assaulted him 4 times, and not just sexually assaulted him, but brutalized him physically and emotionally. Said he killed like 7 puppies in front of his face before he sexually assaulted him. Said that Donald Trump's henchmen murdered a young girl, then killed her, came in the room, killed her, and then Donald Trump came in after and sexually assaulted him. These are some of the horrific things he said. He said that he believes Clarence Thomas also assaulted him. That it's a few different people, but since we got the trolls in the house, let's let the trolls hear. Let's let them hear who they supporting, what they support. And keep in mind, they're not Americans. They like to have American names, but these are not Americans. You see what I'm saying? Don't believe that they're Americans. If you look at the trolls in the chat, if you look at them, you will see they got accounts that are only not even 1 year old, most of them. You see what I mean? So, just keep that in mind. They're pretending like they're Americans because they want to create division among Americans, and they also want to create division among people in the Western world, right? So just keep that in mind when you read their comments. Multiple farms.
And usually It was parties. So there was individuals like Trump that were flown in to the parties.
Rich people at the parties. Where broke asses like you trolls ain't allowed to go, okay? They don't want you there. You can't fit in the club. You don't have enough money.
And
yes. And they would have like a building, a house, and they would usually have like a tent set up, and it was almost like a little, I don't want to say a fair. It wasn't that
kind of like Mar-a-Lago.
Big. They didn't have rides or anything, but it was a kind of a coordinated deal,
All right. So people get the gist of that now. So I'm curious with the trolls, man. What's up? Oregon, let me check. Oregon, how do you like what he said? Do you agree what he said, or do you think he's a liar? Let us know. Do you think he's a liar? Do you think Sasha Riley is a liar? Put a 1 in the chat if you think Sasha Riley is a liar. Put a 2 in the chat if you think what he's saying is true. Okay, so I pretty much know. I believe what he's saying is true. Myself. Now, if you weren't there, you don't know. But I believe what he's saying is actually true, and I don't need to have all the proof to believe that it's true. So that's my view of it. I'm human enough to kind of hear the sincerity in his voice, and he's never committed a crime that I know of around me. He hasn't hurt me, so why would I assume something negative about him? You see what I mean? But it's sad that we have to go there. But this is what people want us cap for. People want to support. People want to support rapists. And then they don't want to be confronted by the rapists either. They want you to not talk about the democratic process while they support a rapist. And then when you show the rapist to them, then they like, oh, why you doing that? That's unfair. You can't say that about him. You can't. Now, check this out. This is Midas Touch reporting on Rancho New Mexico. Right. So check out what they found out about this. This is incredible. This is in the last 24 hours. And then we're going to review some of the documents they have here. Let's see here.
Mexico.
Check it out. Boom. This is terrible.
We've got it. We will be handling the investigation. But the feds did nothing.
You hear that? The feds under Donald Trump, right? The local police in New Mexico, they wanted to raid the Epstein Ranch. And the feds under Donald Trump told them, don't do it. We got this. Yes. And I don't know how many of you all have been following me for the last year, right? But I said this a year ago. I said, it looks like the whole thing, Donald Trump has been out to stop Epstein, right, from revealing things, not out to prosecute him. Like, he used the prosecution as a way to gain control over it. So he prosecuted Epstein when he thought Epstein was about to go left on him. And when they prosecute him, they could throw him in jail. They could threaten him. They could shut him up. They could control things. You see what I mean? And they could shut down the information from coming out. And that's exactly what they did. And here's an example of it. This is Trump's FBI reacting to state police that wanted to raid Jeffrey Epstein's Rancho New Mexico ranch for sex trafficking.
This is going to blow your mind. So Jeffrey Epstein had a ranch that occupied about 7,500 to 10,000 acres in a small city called...
No, don't time out Oregon 123. Oregon 123 was like, I'm out of here. You lying. Yeah, I told you when you start playing this shit, they don't want to hear it, yo. They don't want to hear it.
Stanley.
It's a cult.
A county called Santa Fe in New Mexico. Okay. And in 2019, when the local district attorney wanted to do an investigation into child sex trafficking and abuse of that ranch.
2019, Trump was the president in 2019. And what did he say? This is all on record.
They were specifically told.
And this came out of the Epstein files just the other day.
1,000 acres in a small city called Stanley, a county called Santa Fe in New Mexico. Okay. And in 2019, when the local district attorney wanted to do an investigation into child sex trafficking and abuse of that ranch, they were specifically told by the feds, do not go into that ranch. We've got it.
Tamara, are you out of your damn mind? Tamara says he never committed a crime around me, the guy that's accusing Trump of this stuff. But has Trump ever committed a crime around him? Damn, girl, you don't read the paper. Is Tarama even your real name? I mean, Tara Matthews, is that a real name? You know, get out of here. Come on now. Don't you know Trump is a 34-time felon? I mean, you know, really. So yeah, he committed that crime against the New York residents, the taxpayers. Yeah, he scammed them. You know,
handling the investigation
and American people. From what's that lady's name? That Playboy bunny Trump was trying to hide under the election fraud shit or whatever. He committed a crime against the American people. You didn't know that?
Investigation, but the feds did nothing. We now have the emails of what was going on with the federal prosecutors in the Trump regime, and they said, we are not issuing subpoenas. We're staying away from that Santa Fe ranch. Now, the ranch was called the Zorro Ranch. It was owned by a trust that Jeffrey Epstein owned called the Zorro Trust. Epstein acquired this ranch in 1993. Obviously, you now know that Epstein died in 2019. The ranch was eventually sold to some other entity in 2023. And in 2019, after Epstein was arrested for the second time by the feds, there was lots of questions about that ranch, because there was a lot more, if you could even wrap your head around this, sexual abuse, sexual torture, and other things going on in that ranch than even the island, than even Palm Beach, than even his house in New York City.
Terrell Jackson, are you listening to this? Are you listening to the coverage, or are you ignoring it because you don't like to hear about what Trump has been doing with Epstein? Okay? Again, let's start over from the beginning since you didn't seem to hear it. Under Trump, his last presidency, the FBI told the state that was trying to investigate child sex trafficking at the Epstein Ranch. The FBI under Trump told the state, leave it alone. We got this. It told them not to raid it.
So the ranch was called the Zorro Ranch.
Now, did you hear anything about anything being seized out of that ranch? Out of that ranch, Tyrell? Is it Tyrell? Did you hear anything about it, Tyrell? Anything being seized out of that ranch under that FBI? They seized stuff from Florida. They seized stuff from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Did you hear anything about the FBI seizing anything at this ranch? Do you hear anything about it? You tell me. Did you hear anything about it? You know everything, so let me know. Let me know.
It was owned by a trust that Jeffrey Epstein owned called the Zorro Trust.
Terrell didn't hear about it. No, he didn't.
Epstein acquired this ranch in 1993. Obviously, you now know that Epstein died in 2019. The ranch was eventually sold to some other entity in 2023. And in 2019, after Epstein was arrested, 1993, obviously, you now know that Epstein died in 2019. The ranch was eventually sold to a trust that Jeffrey Epstein owned called the Zorro Trust. Epstein acquired this ranch in 1993. Obviously, you now know that Epstein died in 2019. The ranch was eventually sold to some other entity in 2023. And in 2019, after Epstein was arrested for the second time by the feds, there was lots of questions about that ranch. Because there was a lot more, if you could even wrap your head around this, sexual abuse, sexual torture.
How you doing, Florissa? Good to see you.
And other things going on in that ranch than even the island.
So you hear they're talking about torture. You see what I mean? Torture. And I think this is something any decent human being has got to stand up against. Like, people need to understand that, yes, they were sexually assaulting these children, but they were also torturing them. They were torturing these children. Do you know what torture is? They were torturing them. You see what I'm saying? Like, this was a free for all for rich people to come and do whatever they wanted with these little kids, including sexually assault them. And some of it is on camera. They had little kids. They made little kids make tapes, videotapes to be distributed on the black market. They were doing these kind of things. They made snuff videos where kids, you heard Sasha Riley say that one girl was killed, when he was having some sort of contact with her, right? And that these tapes would be sold. You see what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people don't yet realize, because legacy media is not really covering it, but you have to understand legacy media might not be covering it because they know they're going to get a lawsuit, but it doesn't mean that this stuff is not true. Anybody can get a lawsuit covering this, but how are you going to sue from things that are being mentioned? Trump is not trying to sue Sasha Riley. He hasn't sent Sasha Riley a cease and desist. And then how are you going to sue somebody for reciting information that's in the Epstein files? You can't, obviously. So this is serious. This is serious.
Then even Palm Beach, then even his house in New York City. The ranch, especially based on its proximity to Mexico, because it was in New Mexico, its proximity to Mexico was a site of sex trafficking. We now know from hearing Jane Doe's stories, torture was taking place in there.
So you see, Jane Doe's stories, they corroborate Sasha Riley's stories too. And Sasha Riley's stories came out before this Jane Doe stuff was found in the Epstein files. This Jane Doe stuff is just new. So, it's corroborated. Torture is corroborated, you see, and this is bad. This is, we're not talking about small little, I don't know how to, torture is a bad enough word. You know what I mean? People should really understand, but in this world that we live in, with the trolls, with the deniers, they will try to imagine torture means the slightest thing. No, it's the opposite. Torture here means torture, for real. Torture. You see what I mean? Mentally, physically, and then assault sexually. You see what I mean? Like it's horrific. It's horrific. And it means murder. Some people have lost their lives here. Some young people have been murdered, according to what is being said. You see what I'm saying? Like seriously.
So why the hell was
young people by people that are wealthy, people that have access to government, people that are in government, people that are, yeah, exactly. And they knew about, there's plenty of people that knew what was going on that are in government also.
Wasn't it subject to a subpoena? And if you go back to a July 2019 article by the New York Times, they also talk about how that's an area that Jeffrey Epstein was creating in order to procreate thousands of other Epsteins. He had his own kind of vision of basically getting all of these girls that he was sex trafficking pregnant and to procreate all these future Jeffrey Epsteins to inhabit the world. That was happening in Santa Fe, in New Mexico. Let's just go through some of the email findings that we have here. And there are just some things that'll blow your mind. Like the ranch is owned by the Zorro Trust, which was Epstein's trust. In 2008, the Zorro Trust won a lottery in Oklahoma, and it's possible that's the same Zorro Trust. And then there are emails with Epstein talking about having girls use the lottery ticket and the lottery numbers that he wanted to give them. Was that one of the ways he made this money? Look, let's just go through the emails, okay? This is a December 20th, 2019 email. JE Estate meeting, and as Aaron Parnas.
Hold on, let me see if I can bring up the resolution on this. No, it's good. All right.
Writes, this email confirms that prosecutors never searched Jeffrey Epstein's ranch in New Mexico. We know that's where a lot of the abuse happened, so evidence was intentionally never collected by federal prosecutors. Here's the email. from prosecutors to each other. We're not yet exactly sure what our ability is to provide to the trustees what is effectively discovery in a now defunct criminal case against Epstein himself.
So you see this? So exactly. So where are the seizures from this ranch? And people have been saying this for a minute, but he has other places. Where are the seizures? So far, most of the stuff that people have seen have been from two places, New York and in the Virgin Islands, right? Those two, Epstein Island, those two places. What about the stuff from the other places, including this ranch? And here's the thing. If you believe that he's innocent and there's nothing to this, wouldn't you want to know what is inside it, why nothing was seized, where that information is? Wouldn't you want to know that? Or do you just dismiss it as, hey, it doesn't matter how many people say horrific things. I don't care. I'm just that kind of person that will never believe it anyway. You see what I mean? And but it's just, it's going to come out. It's coming out.
That said,
and let me tell you, it's easy to support Trump with some YouTube accounts that are only a year or two old. That's easy to do, where you don't have a face, where you don't put anything on the line of yourself, where you don't really show people who you really are. That's easy to do, like a troll. So people likely won't believe you because you're not really putting anything up to be believed by. You see what I mean? So let's continue.
And I can convey that we did produce to defense counsel detailed search warrants in connection with the New York property. Perhaps you would be able to obtain those from Epstein's criminal defense counsel. In particular, I believe what you're looking for would be especially at, then it lists Bates number page range, USAO 4381 to 4445, but potentially also USAO 2662 to 4380. Though I note that a handful of those pages were marked as confidential under a protective order as set forth in the discovery letter sent to counsel on July 31st, 2019. We will also review the status of the search warrant return with respect to the island property, and we have not searched the New Mexico property, and I hope this is useful in the interim. Separately, I conveyed your request for a meeting to discuss the possibility of resolving the government's potential forfeiture claims. So they're giving a Bates range, various pages of documents to look at. This is December 2019. Epstein died August of 2019. As you now know, there was a press release about Epstein's death that was drafted August 9th of 2019. He died August 10th, 2019. Then there was a second press release that added the words, died by apparent suicide. Then this is December 20th of 2019. And you're seeing that they're saying there has been no search of the New Mexico ranch. Why would there be no search? But let's go back. September 30th, 2009. This email got copied to FBI Director Mueller. He was the FBI director then, where it says that Epstein's Zorro Trust won an $80 million lottery ticket in New Mexico. It was actually Oklahoma. And that he has a ranch near the U.S.-Mexico border where trafficked children are routed prior to being dispersed to the East Coast.
Now, think about this. Trump, he runs on this whole platform of, the border is not safe, the border. But the truth of the matter is that his main, partner, right, buddy for 15 years is trafficking girls and people, just all, not just across the Mexico border, but from Europe, from Eastern Europe, from everywhere. You see what I mean? Like just the nerve of it, the gaslighting. You see what I mean? Like, and this is what I really think is so, incredulous about what he's doing. It's like everything that he blames on someone else is shit that he's doing. It's like the criminal himself blaming other people for not being good enough to stop him. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to, and think about this. We're all taxpayers. You're a taxpayer. You're a citizen. If you're not a taxpayer right now, someone in your family was a taxpayer. Your parents were a taxpayer at some time, right? Maybe they're still taxpayers. Who knows, right? But U.S. citizens and residents' taxes pay for the Epstein files to be housed away from them. So let me ask you a question, Tyrell Jackson. Do you agree that you don't have the right to see all the Epstein files? Do you agree with that? Put a 1 in the chat if you think it's okay for you not to see all the Epstein files, and put a 2 in the chat if you think there's something wrong with it. And that's everybody. But I want to know from Terrell, because this is what we're talking about. This is what's actually happening. He claims, even though his account is only 1 year old, if it's a he, it could be a lady. Who knows? It could be a goddamn frog. I don't know. But in any case, Tyrell. Because I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? It could be a machine and shit. Do you think it's okay? Okay, well, let's stick to that. Now, how come? Are you okay with them not being shown to you right now, Terrell? Is that okay? Or do you want to do something about it today? You see what I mean? Because if you want to do something about it today, you might need to join other people that want to do something about it today. You see what I mean? And stop moaning and crying about some other shit that's totally off topic, man.
This was just a letter and a tip. Some interesting facts that should be passed to the investigative agents on the Epstein case. I will also copy Directive Mueller. Zorro Trust belonging to Epstein won an $80 million lottery ticket in New Mexico. Zorro Ranch belonging to Epstein sits close to the U.S.-Mexican border, where most trafficked children are routed prior to being dispersed to the East Coast.
You hear this? These are details. These are trafficking details. This is what's in the Epstein files. You see, this is what's actually in the damn files. And, let's just listen carefully to what's being said here. Of course, I could blow this up and we can read it ourselves. Damn. Is that much money going on? Okay, let's see here. Let me just blow this back up here, and so everybody can see what's happening here. And then I'm going to take my camera off for a second and bring it back.
Zorro Trust belonging to Epstein won an $80 million lottery ticket in New Mexico. Zorro Ranch belonging to Epstein sits close to the U.S.-Mexican border, where most trafficked children are routed prior to being dispersed to the East Coast. Several high-ranking officials and friends of Epstein have confirmed that he has sexual relations with underage minors at that facility. Both Ghislaine Maxwell and were served last week. 2 key witnesses on Epstein's camp. Thank you. And so let's take a look, though, when there was an FBI investigation that was starting to take place at the ranch with the house managers at that ranch. Again, just a reminder, Epstein purchases this ranch in 1993 using a vehicle called the Zorro Trust, and he calls this ranch in New Mexico the Zorro Ranch. It's on 7,500 to 10,000 acres of land. So this is sent July 19th of 2019. And here's what it says. And this is so this one is a tip. And then I'm going to show you the next one, which was actually February 13th of 2007. So this was a different one. This is a tip from a retired New Mexico State police officer. The next one from 2007 is from the house managers. Let me read this for you. July 19th, 2019. Here's what it says. This is 2019. On July 19, 2019 at 7:48 p.m., retired New Mexico State police officer, and it's redacted, the telephone number is redacted, other personal identifiers refused, called the FBI National Threat Operations Center regarding information related to Epstein. This person provided the following information. This person lives in a neighborhood of a property owned by Jeffrey Epstein. The property, which is on Zorro Ranch Road, Stanley, New Mexico, has recently had a large barn constructed. The barn is suspicious as there is a garage door that appears to be a sally port, and there is a chimney. This person who's making this tip, this retired police officer, is concerned that the property could have potentially have an incinerator concealed within the barn. An old 1970s mobile home was recently put right behind the barn, which this retired police officer believes does not follow Santa Fe County regulations. There have been a lot of high-profile people seen frequenting the property. This retired police officer has heard rumors that the property was used for recruiting girls to visit with Epstein, but he has no factual evidence to support this claim. This police officer heard rumors that girls from Albuquerque and...
Yo, Terrell Jackson, you don't understand. You're getting the information right now that shows Trump is involved. You need to listen carefully. Here's the thing. What's being displayed right here is that under the Trump FBI, they didn't actually want to raid it. They stopped the state from raiding it. You see what I mean? Trump, under his administration, they have moved Ghislaine Maxwell to a cushy, camp, a place where it's not hard time for criminals like her. You see what I mean? So they're actually helping the wrong people. You get that, right? So, and there's more to this. There's more to this cookie. Here, we also got Sasha Riley, who Trump is not issuing a cease and desist. Trump is not telling him to stop talking, right? A real human being named Sasha Riley, who says Trump assaulted him 4 times. Do you like Clarence Thomas? He also said Clarence Thomas. I don't like Clarence Thomas. So I'm curious about, is this true? I would like to have Clarence Thomas do a cease and desist if it's not true, but he hasn't done it. Who else? Jim, who was it? Jim something else. And then the other dude, it's 2 other people. No, 3 other people. It's like 5 people in government right now that he names as assaulting him. Jim Jones. Is it Jim Jones? I think one of them, the congressional member. And then yeah. So none of these people have issued a cease and desist. Listen, Tyrell Jackson. If these people were saying this stuff about you, would you issue a cease and desist? Or would you just say, hey, fuck it, man. I don't care what my family thinks. It's not hurting my reputation at all. You see what I mean? And it's not the only thing that's not the only allegation. It's not the only person that's making claims about Trump. You see? So I'm just saying, would you do things like this? I mean, is this what a person who's innocent acts like? I'm just saying.
The Moriarty area were recruited for Epstein. This person patrolled this area for 15 years before he retired. The property was owned previously by the governor of New Mexico, but the property was sold to Epstein before the governor's passing. The property that so-and-so is reporting is about 3 miles away from Epstein's mansion.
Now, you know what I'm going to do? Let me see if I can just pull these files up real quick and just peep them out real quick. They are here, but let me see. I have them actually. I think I already. Where are they at? Are they here? Hold on. Let me let this play and then I'm going to pull them up.
The retired cop explained that there was a lot of security for the properties, including cameras, sally ports, and other security measures. And this person explained that the barn was constructed doesn't look like a barn you would use for ranching. This person wanted to report the information to the FBI because he's concerned that evidence could be destroyed here. Again, that's July 19th, 2019. That's before Epstein dies. This is the one I wanted to show you before then, from the house managers. And you'll see these house managers were speaking with the FBI back on February 13th of 2017. Then they get a call from someone and then they shut down speaking with the FBI. But the FBI was suspicious that things were going down in this ranch, sex trafficking, around this period of time, again, in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. So these house managers, their names are redacted, and it says the following. New Mexico was interviewed at the guest house of Zorro Ranch, Stanley, New Mexico. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, so-and-so provided the following information. Person X and Person Y, his wife, have been managing the Zorro Ranch for Jeffrey Epstein for approximately 4 years. There are 5 to 6 full-time staff at the ranch, as well as some seasonal employees. Epstein spends approximately 50 days a year at the ranch during his downtime, mostly in the summer. In the summer, Epstein generally spends 2 to 3 weeks a time at the ranch and is shuttled around by helicopter. The last time Epstein was at the ranch was Thanksgiving 2006. Epstein normally flies into either Albuquerque or Santa Fe and is driven to the ranch. Very little notice is given before Epstein flies to the ranch, usually 24 to 48 hours. Epstein usually brings his personal assistant, his bodyguard, friends, personal trainer, and sometimes his masseuse. The masseuse are not normally flown to the ranch, but are hired by, this is redacted, keeps financial records, and usually arranges the massages. The names of the masseuses are obtained from 10,000 Waves Day Spa or by referrals. This redacted name said that the masseuses are all checked out and they are professionals who are licensed massage therapists. There have been approximately 5 different therapists used in the past. These redacted names said that they could provide the names of therapists used and the amounts paid to them, but that we needed to go to the office to meet her. Upon arriving at the office and greeting so-and-so, they received a phone call from the main office that told him they were no longer allowed to speak with us. The interview immediately ended.
Most of us are numb to it now, but
all right. So this is what's happening. Let me pull this up again. It says here, right, that December 19th, the email, Manhattan federal prosecutors confirmed in an email to a lawyer for Epstein's estate co-executors that they had not searched the New Mexico property following his arrest. You see that? September 19th, coordination. Emails show Manhattan prosecutors spoke with New Mexico Attorney General's office, who agreed to cease any investigation into sex trafficking and share their findings with the federal office instead. Right? So think about this. Why was this ranch stopped? See, you have to understand that this is the trickery of it. This is Trump's FBI. Trump is the president at this time. Why do they not, after arresting Epstein, why do they hold off on searching and confiscating and raiding the ranch? Why is that? And is that acceptable? Is that acceptable? You see what I'm saying? Like, why would they do that if they're, I mean, is it possible that that somebody knows there's things at that ranch that they don't want anyone else to know? Is that possible? Is it possible that they just wanted enough to prosecute Epstein, but not the whole story to come out? Not all of the people involved, not all of the witnesses, not all of the victims to be known, not all of the evidence to be gathered. Is that possible? Is it possible that someone went there in the interim and removed evidence? Is that possible also? You see, to me, again, this is all being done with the American taxpayer dollars. And I'm not trying to, of course, people need to be concerned about this. It shouldn't matter what party this is. It shouldn't matter what president is sitting in office, in my view, right? It shouldn't matter, right? The concern is what the activities are, right? But let's keep this in mind. Your tax dollars are paying for what you're hearing. Your actual tax dollars you have heard. So now I'm going to put this question back out at you. If, let's say, Obama said, don't search Rancho, don't search the New Mexico property. If it was his FBI and there was some emails that said that, do you think the Trump administration would show it now? If it was Biden's FBI who said, don't search the El Rancho property, we don't want to know nothing about it, that's on us, don't worry, leave it be. Do you think the Trump administration today would release that information? See, this is what I'm getting at. But what you're seeing and hearing is that the Trump administration actually did that. You see, so we have to look into that specifically and say, why is it that administration that's doing that? And if there's evidence of anyone else, why aren't they putting it out? You see what I mean? Like, if there was any obstruction by any other president, by any other administration, why would this Trump administration not easily be able to put that information out? That is the question. That's all I'm saying, because there's two different things going on here. One is something dangerous is happening that concerns the American people. And two is there's some obstruction happening with the dangerous shit that concerns the American people. You see what I mean? And those are two things to be pissed off about. You see what I mean? Because again, you're flipping the bill for it all, You're flipping the bill. These are questions you need to ask Patel, not Trump. No, why is that? Patel swore to Trump. Bondi swore to Trump. You see what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? I don't understand you. You really don't hear them kissing Trump's ass and doing everything Trump asked for? Trump said, we want you to go down there into Georgia and look into those electoral offices. Did they not do that? He's got the what is this? The CIA out there. Tulsi Gabbard out down there, whatever her name is, down there looking into election offices at Trump's behest. Come on, you don't see that? I'm not assuming anything. That's a fact. Somebody in this chat educate this man. You've been missing the news, bro. Like, seriously, you've been missing the news. Let's continue. Let's continue. You know, you don't send the head of the CIA. You know what I'm saying? Down to investigate a state problem, a state
November
issue. In any case,
August 25th, 2008. Trust claims lottery work $85 million.
Yeah, put the Kool-Aid down, man. Put the Kool-Aid down, yo.
Oklahoma City. A trust has claimed winning $85 million Powerball tickets sold in Altus, the Oklahoma Lottery said Monday. A group called the Zorro Trust came forward and requested the lump sum payment option, yielding $29.3 million after taxes for the winning ticket in the July 2nd drawing. The ticket was purchased at a Stripes convenience store in Altus. So this Zorro Trust, not sure if it's the exact same trust, but there are emails saying the trust was the one who won the...
Nah. Terrell don't have that Kool-Aid going. He's injecting Trump. He's injecting Trump syrup and shit right now, yo.
Lottery won an
He's about to doze out on that
$85 million lottery, but taking it as a lump sum, they took $29 million. Could it have been that Epstein's connections with government officials gave him the data to win lotteries and make money? I don't know, but I think this is highly, highly suspicious. There's been mixed reporting on if Zorro Trust was Epstein's trust there, or if this was just another trust. But if you look through these emails, there are emails like this from Epstein. I'll tell you, these are the numbers to choose to win the lottery. You tell me you'd rather choose your own. If you prefer to do it your way over winning, it's okay. It's your life. Lots of lottery talk by Epstein. Here are just some more photos of the ranch. You can see right here, the 7,500, 10,000 acres. You see how vast it is right here. Let's take a look right here at this next email right here. This is an email from...
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. You know, he's basically saying he got the winning tickets. You know what I mean? And think about this. I mean, this is important. You know, he's making the accusation that they've said we own the. Just think about this. Even back in Florida, they said we own the state. We own the DA, we own the FBI, we own the police. That's what they said, right? So, and keep in mind, the only people going to these parties are elite people that are part of the elite. You know, you have to be the head of a department. You have to be the head of something. You got to be a Supreme Court justice. You got to be a congressional member. You know, you got to be a senator. You got to be a billionaire. You got to be an aristocrat from another country, or you got to be a rich person or a king or a prince or something. You got to be wealthy, either in politics, power, or money, power. One of the two. That's what you got to be. And if you're the third, you're the victim, right? You're a person that's being exploited in the situation. Now, so why would that exclude, you know, the lottery? Listen, you know, when cartels arrive to a state, they take over everything. That's what they do. If they're any good, they take over shit. You see what I mean? That's what happened. You know, that's what really happens. You know, they get their hooks in government. They get their hooks in business. That's what mafias do. That's what makes them different from petty ass criminals on the street. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, and they're dangerous. And as you heard, Epstein was already dealing with, you know, I mean, come on. If you're dealing with Putin, you're dealing with the Russian mob. The Russian mob is one of the more dangerous mobs in the Western world because they get help from the government of Russia. That's a little different from a lot of other mafias. You know, all mafias don't get help that way, that directly, but the Russian mob is known to do that. You see what I mean? And they're quite dangerous, not just in the United States of America, but also in Europe. You see, but if they're going to move in on something, they're going to permeate the entire society. You know, that's the whole point of it. That's how they don't get caught. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's what makes them effective.
Jeffrey Epstein, two others, and they talk about meeting with, this is August 5th, 2015. He's sending a message about having a meeting that's going to be taking place at the ranch. And he says, Peter Thiel might be coming to the ranch this weekend. You're welcome as well. It's a pretty unusual and private place. So Epstein's inviting people, you know, to this
Peter Thiel,
a meeting that's going to be taking place at the ranch. And he says, Peter Thiel might be coming to the ranch this weekend. You're welcome as well. It's a pretty unusual and private place. So Epstein's inviting people, you know, to this ranch over there. Here's the New York Times article, July 31st, 20.
Yeah. So again, Peter Thiel has 3 passports, right? How many of you have 3 passports in the chat? Peter Thiel's got $1 billion over. How many of you have $1 billion in the chat? You know, this Peter Thiel's got government contracts. He's getting some of your tax money. You know, if you got any kids, you know, child support, you know, Peter Thiel is like another one of your kids, except he's the most expensive one because, you know, he's getting a big part of your money too. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I think we did the numbers, you know, I forgot, but American citizens, man, y'all pay a lot to these people now. Don't sleep. You pay a lot more than you might think. You should try to figure out how much that is actually. How much of your tax dollars a year go to Peter Thiel, each American citizen? How much of your tax dollars goes to Elon Musk, each American citizen, in a year's time? How many goes to Israel in a year's time? Do you know that? Yeah, I do, because I look it up. You know how much every American pays to Israel? Something like $50 a year. Did you know that? Every American, something like $50 a year. These numbers, you know, and I'm going to tell you, Elon Musk is probably getting more than that. You know, Peter Thiel, I mean, can you imagine? $50 signing up to a club like that, you didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, 35, yeah, something around that, right? I'm serious, man. Seriously, people don't realize this. It could be 35, 50. It's something. I mean, don't quote me, but it's a significant number. It's 50, roughly 50. Maybe it might be 54. You think it's 350? I mean, yo, listen, it's worth knowing. It is worth knowing this because it's not, listen, also, it's worth doing the data, the healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, whichever one comes out of the federal government, the biggest one, right? Listen, that is something like 25% of the, maybe even more of the federal budget. That's how big that is. That's in $1 trillion. Do you understand that you can pay that 25%, something like that, of your taxes, federal income tax, goes to a program that you may not even be able to access because you can't afford the deductibles? Do you think that is fair? Now, is Donald Trump leading the charge to change that in Congress? You know, you got to start asking yourself because I don't just pick out one little thing when I decide to pick a battle. I don't just say, you know what, I don't like this thing, so I'm just going to berate this person every fucking day because I found one thing. No, that would be called toxic. Only toxic people do that. What you got to do is you got to pick a target that has a whole lot of shit wrong with it and then point your finger at it. You see what I mean? So that your activity, your energy means something, so it doesn't go to waste. Yo, you need to pick Donald Trump as your target because a whole lot of shit is going wrong. Everything is going wrong. Everything. You couldn't pick a better target than Donald Trump. I mean, seriously, this is his man. And listen, think about this. If you were involved in a mafia, if you were involved in a serious crime syndicate, right? Would your objective be to get power, or would your objective be to go to jail? You tell me. If you were the boss, would your objective be to get power, or would your objective be to go to jail? because it looks like if you talk about two of the buddies, one of them got power and the other went to jail, but they all friends. Maxwell is still a friend of Trump's. Don't you think that's a little strange? Don't you think that's just a little strange? You know, if you really bout it with your crime shit, don't you think you would get somewhere? Where do you think, if you really bout it, you would get if you had two choices? Do you think it would be jail like Epstein and Maxwell? Or do you think it would be the White House? You choose. Which one do you think it would be? You tell me. I don't know. Again, Sasha Riley said Trump and 4 other billionaires were the leaders of the trafficking ring and that Epstein was the subordinate. That's what he said. And you can't unhear it because that is what he said.
2019, Jeffrey Epstein hoped to seed the human race with his DNA. Epstein, the wealthy financier who's accused of sex trafficking, had an unusual dream. He hoped to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating children, at his vast New Mexico ranch, and he confided to scientists and others about his scheme.
This dude wanted to populate the earth. So how many little Epstein kids are there out there? How many? How many people did he pay off? How many other victims are there? You know, they're still out there. You see what I mean? But anyway, let's go.
And that would take place at the ranch. So why would there not be a subpoena? And why would the Trump first administration not go to the ranch? I mean,
yeah. So why did they not go to the ranch? And I'm sorry, but you got to understand something. You know, they said they own the police, they own the FBI, they own the DA, right? That's what they was telling the victims in Florida so that they wouldn't snitch. But, you know, is that far off from the truth? Is that far off from the truth? I mean, if you could do it in Florida, in that state, and run the whole state, get all the shit you wanted, why can't you just do the whole goddamn country like that? If you could do it, if you already have success in one state, why can't you do the whole country that way? I mean, this is what Epstein was going for. And you got to understand something. Even if you think Donald Trump is innocent, which you have to be insane to think that, you have to understand something. His best friend was trying to hijack and blackmail the entire goddamn country. That's what Epstein was up to. Blackmailing Supreme Court justices, blackmailing congressional members, blackmailing senators, blackmailing rich folk in general. That's what he was successful at. You see what I mean? I mean, he was successful at that. So Donald Trump was his main buddy. You don't think Donald Trump knows anything about that? Do you think Donald Trump is blackmailing people in those files right now? Do you think he's bartering what's in the files himself and what's going to be released right now? Do you think that's possible? Do you think he did that before with this ranch, you know, telling the FBI don't do anything about it? Or, you know, do you think, I'm just saying, these are questions that I ask.
That makes absolutely no sense at all. Let's keep going through some of these messages right here. This right here is from the New Zealand Herald, and it talks about that couple that was managing, or at least for a period of time, Epstein's ranch. A New Zealand couple who worked for Jeffrey Epstein may face a potential subpoena to appear before a truth commission into the late sex offender's activities, a New Mexico lawmaker says. Among the millions of files related to the child sex offender unsealed this month were revelations showing New Zealand couple Bryce and Karen Gordon managed his properties during the period prosecutors say he sex trafficked women and girls. The couple are not accused of any offending through their association with Epstein. So that's titled New Mexico Lawmakers May Subpoena New Zealand Couple Bryce and Karen Gordon Over Epstein Links. This is from the local Los Alamos Daily Post. And this talks about this truth commission that's now being set up in New Mexico. Now, one of the things that Epstein was able to use this Zorro trust and this property for is they did not require him in New Mexico after he pled guilty the first time around in 2007, 2008 to child prostitution. He didn't have to register as a sex offender in New Mexico based on some technicalities in the law and his relation.
Exactly. Now, so you know that Acosta, the head of the DA in Florida that gave him that deal, was Al Acosta, and Trump gave Al Acosta a job. You see what I'm saying? Pam Bondi was the second of the Florida DA. She took over the Florida DA after Acosta got the job from Trump. Now she works for Trump. You see, so, you know, again, it goes back to this thing of prosecuting Epstein, locking him up. Very well looks like it wasn't for the purpose of prosecuting him. Why would you want to prosecute him? Information would come out, right? It was more about stopping him. You see what I mean? And controlling the information from coming out, stopping investigations. So preempting any other investigations, this kind of thing. That's what it sounds like to me. And I really have to say this, you know, although Biden was the president before this, you know, Trump was the president in the beginning, Biden is the president after. And of course, theoretically, the president is not supposed to be telling the DOJ what to do at all anyway. The DOJ is supposed to know what to do. Your job is to prosecute fucking crime. You know what I'm saying? And to keep the streets safe for the American people, not allow motherfucking rapists to go out there and victimize people, you know, and commit crimes, you know. But you just have to wonder, like, what the hell was the FBI doing even when Biden was in office? Like, what the fuck were y'all doing, yo? What the fuck were you doing? Like, seriously, like, come on. Look at where shit is right now. Look at where the stuff is right now. You see, so that's just a question to ask. I'm not saying assume. You see what I mean? But listen, by no means ever again can the FBI turn a goddamn blind eye or not prosecute or not be involved in saving the American people this much goddamn trouble. You're supposed to save us the trouble. That's the point of prosecuting people. Save us the hardship that comes with these people. You're supposed to protect us, you know, and I'm telling you, they did not protect the American people. They let this ring run around the goddamn country, harming little kids for 30 fucking years. Not maybe more, you know, I'm serious. Like, that in no way is acceptable by any means. It doesn't matter what administration, period. None. Zero. You know, and American people got to demand more, you know. Now, I'm not saying that these folks weren't troublesome and that they don't have a lot of power, because obviously they were blackmailing people. So that's kind of hard to do shit when everybody around you might be getting blackmailed. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, damn, FBI, what were y'all up to? CIA, what the fuck were you up to? What were you up to? I mean, this guy is trafficking people outside, you know, people from Eastern Europe. That's CIA business. That's not just now that's entered your area, your arena. You know, they even say the things that he was involved in. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just involved in sex trafficking. That's the thing about it. You see what I mean? So, yeah.
Relationship with the government in New Mexico at that time. So he would.
You hear that? Exactly.
First time around in 2007, 2008 to child prostitution. He didn't have to register as a sex offender in New Mexico based on some technicalities in the law and his relationship with the government in New Mexico at that time. So he was shielded from having to report himself as a sex offender in New Mexico. Let's just take a look at what this is saying, though, about this Truth Commission. A possible Truth Commission or proposed Truth Commission to investigate possible crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein at a Santa Fe County ranch could, state lawmakers hope, make New Mexico a leader in seeking accountability. House Joint Resolution 1 is headed to the House floor after winning unanimous approval from the House Judiciary Committee on Saturday and the House Government Elections and Indian Affairs Committee a week ago. State Representative Andrea Romero.
All right, so people get the gist. Let me drop this in the chat. Look, people need to check this out. Go check it out on your own. I saw Florissa said they just arrested an ICE agent during a sting operation in Minnesota. Yeah, well, this is what they need to be doing, because these guys are violating the law. They're violating the law. Secondly, I did hear there's also an update about this California no mask, ICE wearing masks thing that they banned. But the court there overturned it, said that it needs to also include all police, that it was too narrow to just say ICE. This is something, but they're the only ones wearing it. So what the hell? What's up with that? It seems like there's some bias in terms of how people are supposed to prosecute cases from one case to the next. It's like when it comes to, for example, on the Supreme Court level, when it comes to how you can stop people, right? Fourth Amendment, right? You're allowed now to stop people based on how they speak. You see what I mean? This kind of thing, right? But certain traits, right? But when it comes to the opposite in prohibiting masks with ICE, you're not allowed to point at them, be specific about who you're going after. It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. It's corrupt. It doesn't make sense. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, another big bombshell that came up was Howard Lutnick's ass. And I think something that slipped through a lot of podcasters, because I watch most of the big ones. I love them, and it's a good way to stay up on the news, and it's very important to stay up on the news. And but one thing that I didn't hear people talk about with Howard Lutnick, this one thing was that he brought his damn nanny to Epstein Island. And if you pay attention, that's exactly the people that Epstein was trafficking. And I'm just curious about how aware Howard Lutnick was about that. And because think about this, he was the neighbor of Epstein. So if you listen to other accounts, neighbors of Epstein, right? If you listen to them,
seriously,
you will hear them, other neighbors of Epstein. That is people who lived around Epstein, right? Who saw the traffic going in and out of Epstein's house. These kind of people, right? If you listen to their accounts, there was loads of girls coming to Epstein's house. So how did Howard Lutnick miss all that? Like, how's he going to be his neighbor and miss all of that, right? Now, secondly, he saw the age of the girls. He clearly saw the age of the girls. He saw them as being young. So why the hell would he bring his nanny? The question is, how old is his nanny? But why would you bring her to the island? And if you think about this, look, I'm telling you, a lot of people are bringing people around that are not aware of what's going on when someone is a target that's in the group, but you're not going to inform the group of who the target is. You see what I mean? Because that's the mask. I put it to you this way. If you want to distribute drugs, right? What do? You go, what's a good place to do it at? A big ass party where there's thousands and thousands of people at, where it's hard to watch every single movement that everybody is doing. You see what I mean? And it's the same thing with these parties that they're having. When you bring a whole bunch of people, it's hard to keep an eye on everyone and to know things like who the target is. But once you establish, how can I say this? The habits and the practices of the group, then it's easy to see. So in this case, the issue would be, okay, you brought your nanny. How old was the nanny? And then you would say, why would you bring a person that age to Epstein Island? Why would you bring a nanny? Because this dude is grabbing nannies from everywhere. He's grabbing little girls, teenage girls from that are massage, suits. He's just taking them all, even nannies, right? So you have to wonder, did Howard Lutnick know? Like, did he bring, because he lied about it. Think about this. He lied. He said that he didn't see Epstein one day after that one trip in his house. And then you find out the man went to Epstein on goddamn Christmas and brought his family and brought the nanny too. Like, I don't know. Was the nanny offered a job by Epstein? Because that's what they were doing. I got a job for you. What do you need? Do you need some more help? They were passing people around, get one from Trump. I mean, this is the first question I asked. So let's hear a little bit about Lutnick's ass for a second to see how well he's doing.
The former UK ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson. You can see they got a whole barrels of files there and information. Mandelson is under criminal investigation by the British police after the latest trove of Epstein files revealed that Epstein not only sent the British politician and his husband tens of thousands of British.
This ain't Lutnick, but this gives you an idea of what the U.S. is not doing. Everybody in Europe is kicking people out of government that had anything to do with Epstein. And what's happening in the United States? They're keeping all the people that had everything to do with Epstein.
Pounds over the years, but that Mandelson appeared to have leaked sensitive government information to Epstein while he was the UK's business secretary.
Now, listen to this part. This goes back to Steve Bannon, right? They're going to get into Howard Lutnick, but this goes back into Steve Bannon and something Steve Bannon said in this released interview, that of Epstein, right? Where they try to target Bill Clinton, right? And blame him for some economic downturn in the U.S. Well, listen to this right here. Listen to this.
Which is basically the British equivalent of the American position of Commerce Secretary. And I'm going to get to that guy in just a moment. But among those alleged leaks is one huge one. Because back in 2009, debt had thrown the economy of Greece into a crisis.
You see?
And because Greece is in the EU and uses euros, that put the value of euro itself at risk. So in May of 2010, the finance ministers of the governments of the EU agreed to try to avert the crisis from spreading with a 500 billion euro bailout. That's a big one. But the latest tranche of Epstein files appears to show is that Mandelson, who would have been a key figure, of course, in negotiating that deal as their version of the Commerce Secretary, appears to have tipped Epstein off about not just that the deal was going to happen, but exactly when the deal was going to happen.
You see?
Because the night before the deal, Epstein emailed Mandelson, sources tell me 500 billion euro bailout almost complete. Then someone whose name is redacted but appears to be Mandelson replied, should be announced tonight. He said he was just leaving 10 Downing Street, which is, of course, the British equivalent of the White House. And as Mandelson said he was leaving Downing Street, he said he would call Epstein. Now, obviously, advanced knowledge of a major government bailout, one that would create huge winners and huge losers in the stock market, is incredibly valuable information. It's the kind of insider trading info that could make someone a fortune. And allegedly revealing that information to Epstein is what Mandelson is now under criminal investigation for. It's why he's been effectively forced to leave the British government altogether. But the thing is, he isn't the only one in hot water over this. This was the cover of the British tabloid, the Daily Express, today. Resign now, PM on brink as he calls to go mount. As calls go to go mount. There you go. Okay, you could read it yourself. The Prime Minister of England, Keir Starmer, is fighting to keep his job over this scandal. Now, to be clear, Starmer has no personal ties to Epstein that we...
And see, this is what I'm saying. I mean, they're a threat to democracy. Like, what they're doing, their activities are, they know it themselves. They are threatening democracies. You could look at it like, okay, how could this leader be so stupid, and how could they? Yeah, of course, that's one aspect of it. That's one component of it. How could they fall for this? And obviously, you see, Mandelson is like, it's because Mandelson is fucking corrupt. How Epstein got his hooks in him, who knows? But it's easy to see that he get his hooks in a lot of people. He obviously knows how to do it, right? Feeding to their ego, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe having, I could almost imagine Epstein could look at a lot of these guys and say, they're over the hill. They probably are missing some good loving. Let me show them that I have these little girls around me and they're always available. And then, I got you one day. And then now you got to do what he says. I mean, this is what you do. This is how you do it. You see what I mean? You play on people's weaknesses. You see? So Epstein obviously was good at that. But nonetheless, there's another component to it. The people, the taxpayer. So when they're doing the voter. So when they're doing this, they are actually interfering with your sovereignty. That is what they are doing. They are meddling in the sovereignty of a democratic nation. That's what they're actually doing. They're threatening democratic nations. That's what's going on here. And the fact, I'm so happy to see other governments get that. EU, a lot of even though the UK is not in the EU anymore, but the EU governments get it. They're trying to clean up house. What the fuck is going on in the US? Don't people get it yet? They trying to interfere in your sovereignty, in democracy. They're trying to interfere with it. Like, if you put up with that level of corruption, you will never get anything. You will never get that country working for the people at all. Like, that is just utterly ridiculous. And you can see the people in Europe, they know that. They know it clearly. This is when you have this level of corruption. This is a threat to your society as a whole, your way of life. If you can twist things around just that easily and get your hooks in that many people outside of the democratic process using a corrupt means like trafficking, blackmail, and espionage, you are in fucking trouble. Like up to here. You're like up to here. Your neck is just above the water. If you sink anymore, you are in drowning territory. Like, and yet we're still sitting there. Our Congress is still sitting there in the U.S. Our Supreme Court is still sitting there. And I know some are trying to do good, but trying to do good, that ain't good enough. When the water is up to your neck, you got to stop the threat. You have to stop the sinking, or more people are going to die. Like, straight up, this is the situation in the U.S. right now, man. Yeah, but in any case, let's hear some more.
The scandal that has the British public so mad at him that they are trying to oust him from his job is simply that Starmer would not have appointed someone with known ties to Epstein to be the British ambassador to the U.S. in the first place. That he should. Yeah,
I agree with you. Wake up, May. We shouldn't be paying taxes right now, not to the U.S. government, because they are. It's all out of whack. Nothing. They are just. It's only benefiting the criminals right now, and we're talking about real goddamn criminals that will kill little people. What kind of torture little people? What kind of shit is this? And they're still trying to figure out if Trump should be is it okay that Trump is the president? Maybe he's okay. Yo, that is the height of immorality, height of no ethics at all. There can be nothing worse. Sadly enough, like, you may as well, you lose the ability to talk about Saudi Arabia chopping off people's heads, the Taliban chopping off people's heads, ISIS chopping off people's heads. When you're fucking around protecting people that killed little fucking kids and tortured them, you've entered the territory with those people now. That's what's going on here. That's sick. That's sick.
That's enough for the public in England to say the prime minister should go. That's how completely toxic Jeffrey Epstein is in a normal political environment. I mean, even the King of England is now supporting a police investigation into his own brother, the man formerly known as Prince.
Oh, that dude, Mendelssohn's about to get arrested for sure. He's about to get arrested. Somebody has to pay. Someone has to pay. If you don't make these people pay, why would they respect you? What? Come on.
Andrew, over the revelations of his ties to Epstein that have come out in the latest batch of files. Literally, the King of England is supporting a police investigation into his own brother.
He better.
Because of how toxic it is to be connected to Jeffrey Epstein in England.
At least he's smart enough to know. He's smart enough to know you can't have a country and have this kind of shit flying around. At least he knows that. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't take a genius to know it, which is why you hear me saying it, because I'm not even claiming to be a goddamn genius. I'm smart. I'm not stupid. I wasn't born yesterday. I can see a scam before it hits my face. You see what I mean? But goddamn, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't take a genius to see that this is a serious threat to anyone's nation, this kind of operation. And the U.S. people in the U.S. are still sitting there. The military, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't get it. You got Elon Musk trying to put an AI bot up inside of the Pentagon. Now, people might be overreacting or whatever, but no. Enough is enough, man. Enough is enough. Nobody that's been associated with Epstein, lied about it, can be in government, period, in any shape, way, or form. That's how people got to move.
Here's, of course, what is happening here in the United States. I mean, the latest batch of Epstein files also detailed the social and business entanglements Epstein had with Trump Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Now, being associated with Jeffrey Epstein is not a crime. Epstein was a businessman and a creepy version of a socialite. He did business with and socialized with a lot of people, as we now know. But check out how Trump Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick described his relationship to Epstein late last year. I mean, this was Lutnick telling the New York Post about an incident with Epstein, who happened to be Lutnick's next-door neighbor when he visited his house back in 2005.
Traditional keyword research.
Yeah, this is some scary shit. It's beyond scary because it's really happening and people know it's happening. But no citizen of any democracy deserves what the United States Congress and Senate are doing to its people right now. The mere fact that this is not enough, that they haven't seen enough of Donald Trump, is it's treasonous in itself. You know, it can only make you wonder how many of them are involved in it, you know, because how much more do you need to see, you know? But here,
I say to him,
this is one of Trump's cabinet members, Howard Lutnick, the guy who lied in your face about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and then got the nerve to do him one more, bring his damn nanny to Epstein's island, you know, like, come on.
Massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. Ooh. And he says, and the right kind of massage. Ooh. Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never.
Yeah, I hear you. Her reactions are creepy to me, but she's faking. She knows he's faking. She knows she's just going along with it. Yeah. And Howard Lutnick is eating it up because he thinks she's buying it.
In the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Okay, he was quite the storyteller there. I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. That is how Lutnick described his decision to cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein in 2005. I mean, Lutnick even went further, telling the New York Post not only that he made the decision to never see Epstein after that, but that he, in fact, never did see Epstein after that.
I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Yeah, he is gross. But again, that was Lutnick just 4 months ago, saying that he was never even...
It's over. All these people are over with. Exactly, Florissa. All these people are over with. No, you know, they have threatened people's sovereignty. They are a threat to sovereignty, to nations. You know, and nations like you said, France is investigating. If you don't take this as an alarm, if you don't take what happened in the United States with this espionage and this blackmail and these honeypot things and this torture of kids and killing it, if you don't take this level of corruption serious, you basically don't deserve to have a country, because it is serious. It is deadly serious, and not even worse than deadly. This will destroy your country. These people care nothing about democracy. They care nothing. They are anti-democracy, in the worst type of way. So, France better investigate. And I think their days are over. Like, Elon Musk has reached his apex. It's over for him. And it's pretty sure that he's scared. He knows what's up. But it ain't going to be over till it's over. Like, they have way too much power, and they are now a threat to people. You see, and that's different. That's a new level that we haven't seen before. This guy's trying to be the first trillionaire. It's only going to be on people's backs. He's going to ride people's backs literally into the dirt. You see what I mean? To get that $1 trillion. But he wants to be it. You see what I mean? And he doesn't have any respect for the law, and he is willing to divide people, use racism, use, wokeism, this gender bias shit where they don't want to admit that women's suffrage movements are real, where they're against human rights. They're against civil rights. I mean, all over they're trying. That's their whole thing. Come to your country, divide and conquer. Start talking about one group, pointing the finger at one group, then once everybody goes along with that, then they find another group to point the finger at. And then when people say, okay, well then it's just these two, then they point the finger at someone else. It's just going to go around, and the next thing you know, he's going to own your country and shit. That's really what it is. That's what it is.
Room with Epstein, not social.
It's like a merry-go-round.
Business, not even philanthropy. Then in this latest batch of
like father, like son
Epstein files, well, we got this. This is an email from Howard Lutnick to Jeffrey Epstein from December 19th, 2012. And yes, if you're doing the math, it is 7 years after Lutnick claims to have cut Epstein out socially, to have been disgusted by him, to think he's gross, in which Lutnick arranged to have lunch with Epstein on Epstein's private island, saying, quote, "Hi, Jeff. We are landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon. Where are you located? What is the exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple with me on my boat. Each of us has 4 children, 2 16-year-olds, 2 14-year-olds, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, and 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. Thanks, Howard." Epstein then replied, quote, "Come Saturday or Sunday for lunch, question mark, and gave the exact location of his island.
That is a weird message to write. Why is he describing all of their ages in detail like that? Like, who does that? Who does that? Who does that? Like, I'm sorry, but this is way too creepy. This is way too creepy to just pass off. He didn't even get into the damn nanny yet. Look, it says, I have another couple, Michael and look at that. See, so he's bringing people there, and he's informing Epstein of how old the kids are. I have another couple. What does that mean? Did he bring a couple before? Michael and Marcy Lehman with me on my boat, and each of us has 4 children, 2 16, 2 4. This is code, this is code. It seems like to me, it seems like code, because it's kind of wrapped well in the idea that, okay, Lutnick has his kids, so the other kids must be safe too, right? But he's going to describe them as being like the same as his kids too. So it's not like you're singling them out. That's very, very weird. I have another couple, me on my boat. Each of us have 4 children, 2 16, 2 14, a 13, 12, and 11, and a 7-year-old. Yo, peace, Dylan. Peace. I got you. Good looking out. Yeah, I'm just saying, I really do believe that, and I use the word believe because that's what I mean. I believe this is how they move. Again, You know, if you selling drugs, if you're a drug dealer, what's the easiest way to, make your deals, make shit happen? It's when there's a whole lot of people around, a party. You see what I'm saying? Then it's harder to keep track of what is going on. You see what I mean? It's just that simple. And, this reminds me of that. Like, you have to have cover to get to do things, and, to me, it seems like the only difference here is the cover is you have your family as the cover and you're bringing other people around this dude. And he knew this dude was a sex trafficking molester, rapist. Excuse my language, but he knew that. And he brought these kids with them. That is insane. So I'm afraid that this is not just like, people can't just look at this and say, oh, well, it's just another coincidence. Lutnick is he's not bad. No, it appears to me like Lutnick knows what's up. Like, this guy has his hooks in Lutnick, and Lutnick is doing things. It appears to me that Lutnick is doing things because Jeffrey Epstein knows something about Lutnick. Like, he got his hooks in him. And this is how you do it. When the mob gets their hooks in you, they don't just let you go. They make you do shit for them, Two
14-year-olds, a 13-year-old.
They even tell you how to do it.
A 12-year-old, and 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. Thanks.
Why would you say, what is this, 16, 14, 13, 12? I mean, why do you need to say 13, 12, and 11? Why can't you just say teenagers? Why can't you say we got a group of teenagers, young teenagers, and a 7-year-old? Why can't you wrap it up like that? He's naming each age. That is weird. That's creepy. I don't know. That's creepy. That's creepy to me,
Howard. Epstein then replied, quote, "Come Saturday or Sunday for lunch, ? And gave the exact location of his island. To which Lutnick replied, okay, lunch on Sunday. See you then.
Yeah, that sounds like code talk. Like, this is language that obviously you can't say, I got these girls with me at this age, and you know what? Is it a good time? Can you use them for your operation? You're not going to say that. You're going to make it sound like, try to make it sound like a innocent affair going on here. Like, yeah, you know what? Guess what, man? Remember when we was up on 20th Street last night? Yeah. Well, then now we're going to head down to 18th Street tomorrow. How's that sound? That's how drug dealers talk. You see what I mean? The price is 18 now. It's not 20. You see what I mean? It's like they talk around it, but this shit is weird. This shit is weird, yo. This is weird. I'm sorry, but I think, why wouldn't he have his hooks in? And why wouldn't he have his hooks in Howard Lutnick? Why wouldn't he? What's different about Howard Lutnick? If he could have his hooks in anybody else, why couldn't it be Howard Lutnick too?
Now, I don't know if Howard Lutnick does not include an island as being in the same room as him, but that is quite a stretch. That all seems pretty social to me. Now, when the New York Times confronted Lutnick about the existence of those emails, Lutnick said he could not comment on the island visit because he had not seen the latest Epstein documents. Now, that wasn't exactly the question, was it? I'm guessing anyone would remember taking their family to an island with a known predator, I would think. Lutnick told the Times, quote, I spent 0 time with him, and then Lutnick hung up on the reporter. Now, today, Senator Chris Van Hollen held Lutnick's feet a little closer to the fire, much closer, asking him about the island visit while Lutnick was testifying to the Senate. And this time, Secretary Lutnick seemed to remember a lot more about that trip.
Right. It just comes out slowly but surely. He remembers a little more, Okay. That's also another sign of lying. I mean, of hiding something,
Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple with...
You hear that? 4 children and nannies. So he's got more than one nanny with him.
They were there as well with their children. and we had lunch on the island.
Again, there's a lot to unpack there. Taking your children to the island with Jeffrey Epstein and nannies, lots, but we don't have time for that. But again, it's not a crime to have lunch with someone, no matter how terrible they are. It's not even a crime to lie to the press. But why was Howard Lutnick lying? Why was he so emphatically denying he had any relationship at all with Jeffrey Epstein when he clearly did have a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? In England, Jeffrey Epstein is so toxic that the literal
Yeah. They're all look, this is kind of like you said, Dennis. Dennis says you heard Lutnick rage about how the EU wouldn't buy chicken or beef from the US. Look, this is their scam. You know, these guys it's just like what you heard what happened with the UK. What's the guy Mendelsohn? You know, basically trying to make deals, you know, using insider trading, like using information and trying to make the deals themselves. So if they were talking about something like chicken or beef from the USA, it's because they want a cut of the deal. You know what I mean? But who's behind it at this point? We know Epstein is pretty much dead, right? So Trump is the president. It appears as if Trump won, right? Whatever disagreement Epstein and Trump had, it looks like Trump came out on top of that, right? Because he's the president and he's still alive and Maxwell is in jail, right? So that kind of shows you. But it's just high level corruption. It's nothing. It's just corruption right out in the open now. At this point, it's just all in the open. It was all packaged up some years ago, but now it's all out in the open. They're not afraid to just be corrupt out in the open anymore. Like, and everyone knows that's what it is. Come on, when you see it and the guys out there talking about, I mean, what the hell does he know about chicken? Howard Lutnick. You know what I'm saying? Beef, he's a beef and chicken man now. Like, come on. It's just ridiculous. You know, it's just ridiculous. And yeah, they just want people to, they're good at one thing, getting, you know, corruption, getting people to make deals they don't even need to make just because your name is on it. So you get a check too. That's basically what it sounds like to me.
There
is
brand new reporting from Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald. She's been a trailblazer on the Epstein story.
What's up?
Once again, calls into question every single statement Trump puts forward when it comes to the central issue. What did Donald Trump know? And when did he know it about Jeffrey Epstein's?
Let me know, everybody. Let me know what country you in, everybody, right now. I'm in Denmark. I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark. Let me know, y'all, in the chat what country you in. And if you don't want to put the state, you don't have to. But what country?
Child sex trafficking. From that reporting, quote, in July 2006, just as Jeffrey Epstein's criminal sex charge became public, Donald Trump called then Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reiter to tell him that Epstein's activities with teenage girls were well known in both New York and Palm Beach. Reiter recalled his conversation with Trump in a 2019 interview with the FBI. More from the reporting, quote, thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this, Trump told Reiter. Reiter told FBI agents that Donald Trump revealed that Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, was Epstein's, quote, operative, and that Donald Trump said, quote, she is evil, and to focus on her, according to the reporting. Trump told Reiter that, quote, he was around Epstein once when teenagers were present, and Trump got the hell out of there, the report said. Donald Trump also told Reiter that he threw Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club. A Justice Department official tells us that, quote, we are not aware of any corroborating evidence that the president contacted law enforcement 20 years ago. While this squares with something the White House has said in the past, it does not square with what Trump has said himself about the past. This is from 2019, the days after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest.
Did you have any suspicions that he was molesting young women,
no,
underage women?
Idea. I had no idea. I haven't spoken to him in many, many years.
If, quote,
but that was a lie. That's basically a lie. And you know, but this is the thing, you know, I don't know why, you know, like itchy brain. You make it seem like you say you dirty Dems can't stop Trump. Why is this about stopping Trump? Why is it about stopping Trump? Why isn't this about stopping espionage, stopping corruption. Why isn't it about that? And you make it sound personal. You see what I mean? And that's weird because you make it sound personal, like having something personal against a person whose best friend was the most prolific child sex trafficker in the country's history. You make it sound like something's wrong with having, being like, ugh, that was his best friend. What the fuck is he doing hanging around that dude? Like you're making it sound like it's something wrong with not liking Trump. When in fact you've seen nothing but horrific things from Trump. Your health care has gone up. The cost of living has gone up. You see, you saw the FBI under Trump refused to raid Epstein's ranch in New Mexico. You know about that. You see what I mean? I mean, you're just giving a pass to Trump over and over and over and over and over. Like, so the issue is not whether Dems can stop Trump. That's not the issue. Dems shouldn't have to stop Trump. American citizens should want better than Trump. And my question to you, Itchy, is why don't you want better than Trump? What state do you live in and who's your health care provider? Why don't you want better? Yeah, okay, well, Itchy says I'm lying. Okay, Itchy, fair enough. You think I'm lying,
Everyone
huh?
has known he's been doing this, as Trump reportedly put it. And Trump himself was with Epstein when there were teenagers present and, quote, got the hell out of there, as he said.
If you saw somebody was a sex trafficker and liked them young and was stealing girls from you, would you report them to the police or would you keep it a secret?
Why didn't he contact authorities? Why didn't he contact authorities when Epstein, quote, stole, Trump's words, not ours, survivor Virginia Roberts Giuffre from her job at the spa at Mar-a-Lago in the year 2000? Trump did say this, though, about all that back in July of last year.
Yeah, he took people, and because he took people, I said, don't do it anymore. They work for me. And he took, beyond that, he took some others. And once he did that, that was the end of him. I didn't like, when they steal people, I don't like it.
Stealing people.
If that was a dumb question, why are you here, Itchy? You don't like my podcast? You must. Why you come here then? That's crazy, man.
Stealing people. It's worth noting, Trump did say something about Epstein's proclivities, but it was not to law enforcement. It was to a reporter writing an article in New York Magazine in the year 2002. He said this, quote, about Jeffrey Epstein: he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, end quote, from Donald Trump. I want to bring in once again to our coverage Jess Michaels. She's a survivor of abuse by Jeffrey Epstein. She's become a fierce advocate for accountability from the government. And
yeah, so just so people can get an idea of what's going on here with Itchy. This is Itchy. He doesn't like my podcast, right? Which is very interesting because he comes here a lot. But his account was made 2 years ago. This is him. It's 2 years ago. So Itchy got plenty of accounts. My account was made in 2013. I don't know why Itchy has, Itchy, you new to YouTube or something? Like, I'm just curious about that because this is not an old account, and I'm just curious, how many of these accounts do you have? That's all I'm saying, I got this one. All right. So I got two accounts. This is the only one I operate on. The other one is for my documentary. So just so you know, but in any case, I'm going to finish out on this one last thing here. This is some information. And of course, people should want to know about this because this is not partisan. This is actually, and I'm a Democrat, but I'm not partisan, meaning I don't vote based on what party you're with. I vote on the things you want. I live in Denmark, so everybody here has universal health care. Everybody here has universal education. So and Denmark's not richer than the United States of America per person, right? But people, if you want to take a class here, you more than free to go take a class. You'll probably get a stipend and get paid to take the class too. Unlike the U.S., where people are spending their whole lives paying off debt from school, just attending school. You see what I mean? Not even able to buy a home because they have so much debt that's accumulated their entire life. They can't even get out of student loan debt. So, there it is. And you would think that somebody like Itchy, would want education to be more affordable. You would think somebody like Itchy would want healthcare to be more affordable. But he's not smart enough to want that. He doesn't realize you pay more for education in the U.S. You pay it out of your tax dollars. Every person pays for health care out of their tax dollars. That's probably the biggest part of the federal budget is Medicare, and yet loads of people can't even afford the deductible, but their tax dollars get used to pay for other people. You would think Itchy might have family, that might be concerned about that, neighbors that he loves, things like that. But he doesn't. There you go. You don't have it. But in any case, this is a forensic analysis, right? Of analyzing these emails that, and this also has something to do with Clinton. So there's something for the people that are partisan that need to have a Democrat before they hear anything else, right? They need to have a Democrat on the fire. So here's the Democrat on the fire too. So you get that if you want to listen, but you also get some interesting analysis about Trump. Itchy's probably not into that, though.
And forensic psychologist, as well as a body language expert. But today, we're not going to be analyzing body language. Today, we're going to be doing a forensic analysis of the 20,000 plus emails and text messages from the Epstein files. Before we get started with this, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. In the forensic cases I've worked on, it's not unusual at all that I'm given stacks of emails, text messages, Facebook posts, you name it. If it's something that the person wrote, I ultimately have to analyze it and build a profile. Now, what I did in this situation is I went through and read all of the relevant documents, emails, text messages, articles, everything that was provided by the House Oversight Committee. First, I want to talk about the relationship of Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump. So after reading through all of these, I got a very good idea of the type of people that Jeffrey Epstein respects, likes, and wants to surround himself with. He likes scientists, professors, journalists. That seems to be the people that he really wants to connect with and the people that he values. Now, when we talk about somebody like President Trump, he does not fall into those categories. He's not an academic. He's not a scientist. He is not somebody that Jeffrey Epstein seems to value. Now, his emails about Donald Trump fall in one of two categories. On the one hand, he wants to know everything about President Trump. He wants to know where he's traveling to. He wants to know what's going on with him politically. He's constantly being sent emails and articles that have been written about Trump, and he's sending other people articles that have been written about Trump. So there's just a lot of interest about what's going on in Trump's life. On the other hand, when he talks about him personally, he describes somebody he doesn't like. He basically says that Trump is borderline insane. He describes him as someone who doesn't have a decent cell in his body. He basically doesn't see him as someone that he values. I think that Jeffrey Epstein sees himself as smarter than Donald Trump. That seems to be the way that he describes him. He makes fun of Trump being a genius in one email. So what I gather is that Jeffrey Epstein did not like Donald Trump. Now, at one point they were friends. I think they've both acknowledged that at one point in their lives they were friends. But during this period, it seems like there's nothing but disdain. Not only did Jeffrey Epstein dislike Donald Trump, he actually tried to cause harm. He tried to help during a congressional hearing when they were interviewing Michael Cohen. He was texting with, you may have already heard about this, he was texting with a congresswoman trying to help her and trying to prompt her on the questions to ask. So Jeffrey Epstein very actively was trying to harm Donald Trump during this time. Now, the way he talks about former President Bill Clinton is totally different. I think that there was a real kinship there, and I think they remained friends for a long time. There's evidence to suggest that we're going to get into when we get into the actual emails. Now, despite that fondness, in 2016, it seems like that there was something that Bill Clinton said that made Jeffrey Epstein feel like he couldn't trust him. And it is characterized that Bill Clinton is very manipulative. That's how he sees him. He's someone he likes. He's someone he wants to spend time with, but he also describes him as extremely manipulative. And in terms of what I learned about Jeffrey Epstein himself, in terms of what he's like, in terms of how he communicates, he is someone that absolutely loves to have leverage and power over people. This goes exactly with what we already know about him, which is he's someone that wants to be in control. That shows in his emails. What's interesting about the way that he emails is that he uses sentence fragments. He doesn't actually form whole thoughts almost ever. Occasionally he will actually use proper grammar, but it's full of spelling errors, half thoughts. He's usually telling people what to do. trying to organize what somebody can say as a response to different situations, like the Virginia Giuffre situation. He's trying to tell people what to say in those situations. And before we get into the actual emails,
you know what I'm going to do? Here, I'm going to invite Itchy up on the chat. Here you go, Itchy. Let me drop the link for you, because I see Itchy got a lot to say, and he wants to educate me on what I should be doing. So let's invite Itchy up. All right, Itchy, you cool with that? I hope you got Discord. Let's have a little conversation. And yeah, anybody's welcome to hop up, but you know, most people know that, but maybe Itchy didn't know that. So let me invite Itchy today. Let me see here. Yeah, so let me open up the Discord real quick while we let this play.
I want to cover about how he communicates. He is fully aware that people might read these emails. He had already been convicted back in 2008. He's very careful about what he says. And some things are said intentionally that he knows are not true, possibly knowing that at some point people are going to review these things. He is fully aware. And I know he's aware because he says, this is for phone only, or call me about this. Don't put this in an email. He makes specific references to that. So he sees email as an unsafe, unsecure communication, whereas phone, I guess he assumed his phone calls were not being listened to at that point. I presume they weren't because I haven't heard anything about that. But he seemed to think talking by phone was a safe way to communicate. Sitting through email was absolutely not. So keep that in mind as you read this. Don't take what he says literally too often. Do not take everything he says at face value, because he's only putting information out there that he thinks other people could read and that wouldn't get him into trouble. Now that we've talked about Trump, Clinton, and Epstein, let's talk about the actual content of the emails. Let's look at the most consequential emails, and we'll talk about what those mean. Now, the first email we're going to look at is about former President Bill Clinton. A couple of things I want you to keep in mind as we go through all of these. The formatting can be a little bit weird. It was originally sent over and released in just a wall of text. It looked terrible. It was impossible to read. I've got it reorganized, and so some of them are going to look like this. Some will look like raw emails. But just understand, these were formatted so they would be easier to look at. So this email exchange is between Jeffrey Epstein and Kathy Rumler. And if you're not familiar with her, I believe she was the White House counsel during Barack Obama's presidency. The first email from Jeffrey Epstein says, talking to MacGyver disturbs me. And that takes a lot. It's at the bottom, by the way, if you're keeping track of this. Now, what he's saying is he's talking to Bill Clinton. That's MacGyver. MacGyver was someone that could get out of any situation. It's very clear in a second that that's who they're talking about. But I assume they refer to him as MacGyver because he's able to come up with things on the fly, which also suggests that he's manipulative. And we're going to get much more into that as this continues to go on. But he's saying, talking to Bill Clinton right now, what he's saying.
Anybody notice Itchy just left the chat when I invited him up? He just disappeared.
Is disturbing, and that takes a lot. That is probably one of the most significant things to have come out in all of these emails. That really blows my mind. But let's keep going, and we're going to talk more about it. Kathy Rumley replies, what part do you find disturbing? Do you think he's losing it? So I suppose just because he's getting older, maybe they're implying that it's some sort of age-related issue. Jeffrey Epstein says, you were right and I was wrong. Humble pie, crow, or my own words is what I get to eat today. Your choice. Kathy Rumler replies, meaning I win the bet that I will never receive an apology or acknowledgement of the acceptance of responsibility. Jeffrey Epstein says, I could never, ever verify its authenticity. So, yes. And Kathy Rumler replies, I will just say I told you so. Not to sound overly dramatic, but he's very close to being a psychopath. He has no conscience. It's scary. Now, that is a profound statement to be making about somebody that they both apparently know. Now, Jeffrey Epstein replies, I was wrong. Kathy Rumler replies, he obviously said something to you yesterday that was disturbing and you don't want to tell me. Just tell me. I can take it. I promise. Jeffrey Epstein replies, my memory is a friend killer. I stopped talking to Clinton when he swore, with wholehearted conviction to me, that he had done something he had opposite to me only weeks before. So he's painting Bill Clinton as a liar and a manipulator. Kathy Rumler replies, MacGyver takes it to another level because if you call him out on it, he will explain with a straight face that both statements are true. Now, we actually saw him do this when he was president. Bill Clinton, when he was president. But what this says to us is that these are two people that are talking about Bill Clinton being an extremely manipulative, disturbing individual. I'm very curious what Jeffrey Epstein's referring to when he was saying that they were talking about something that disturbed him. I also want you to keep in mind, this is 2016. This is many, many years after Bill Clinton allegedly had no contact with him. They just went on a trip to Africa together. They traveled a little bit together because it was convenient to ride in his plane. They don't really know each other. So that's the line that was being said.
So you could see.
So I want you to keep in mind, they were on the phone on January 22nd, 2016, talking about something that disturbed Jeffrey Epstein. So to me, that is true.
Right. So you could see that Bill Clinton and Epstein had a fallout basically back then, right? So it's good. It's interesting to see that pointed out, actually. Come on. Is somebody hopping up? Yo, Itchy, where you at, Itchy?
New information that we are gaining from these Epstein files. If we talk about the various bombshells in it, to me, this is a big one. Now, this email exchange is between Jeffrey Epstein and Landon Thomas Jr. Now, Jeffrey Epstein was really bothered by the accusations made by Virginia Giuffre. They caused a lot of problems for Prince Andrew, obviously, and they were causing a lot of problems for him personally. So understand, when he talks about this, he has every reason to say things that are not true. Let's read through these emails, then we'll talk about their significance. So Jeffrey Epstein says, and you got to keep in mind, these are backwards, so the older ones are going to be on the bottom. Email reads Landon. There's a redacted name, which is likely Virginia Giuffre, considering the context of all of this, but the storyteller crafted much of it out of whole cloth. Part of her story is that she was at multiple orgies with Clinton, and specifically the minute details of a dinner had on the island with him. He sat on my left, came by Black Heli, flown by Ghislaine. Clinton was never, ever there. Never. It punches a hole in the Dershowitz-Andrew allegation, making it all apparent that it was fantasy and delusional. Thoughts? Who should break the story? So you have to think about what the purpose of this email is. The purpose of this email is to say that Virginia Giuffre is lying and nothing she's saying is true. So by saying Clinton was never, ever there, never, that if they can prove those things, it would punch a hole in the Dershowitz and Andrew allegations. So making it apparent that it was all fantasy and delusional. So this is not him trying to express what the actual truth is. He is fully aware that people may at some point monitor these things, and he's trying to create what would be a story that would then all of a sudden make the Dershowitz and Andrew allegations go away. So Landon Thomas Jr. replies, let's have a chat. You do need to fight back somehow. Present evidence that she is lying and show the world that you are no longer that guy. You have made changes and that this is the past. There's some contradiction here. Now, I know this is not Jeffrey Epstein that wrote this, but it's kind of funny because he's basically saying, say that she's lying, but also show that you're not that guy and that you've made changes from being that person. So she can't both be lying and then have him be a different person than he was when he did these things. It just doesn't really make any sense. My sense is that it's TV type thing where you just...
Actually, if you notice, this is kind of what they all do. They all like to play both sides of the coin, you know, and that's what Trump does. That's what the entire administration does. They play both sides of the coin. That's their tactic, basically. That you know, they choose any argument that works for them at that moment. The moment the opposite argument works, they choose that one. Trump did it with his relationship with Epstein. He said he hadn't talked to the guy in years. Then you find out, no, Epstein has actually been to Mar-a-Lago more recently than what Trump, you know, admitted to. You see, and here's the thing: if you're not talking to a guy and you kick the guy out, why is the guy continuing to come to your place? You see what I mean? And not even just that Epstein went to Trump's place one time. It's more than one time. It's also in New York too. You see, so it's crazy. I mean, all these people lie.
Evidence that it's not true.
They're all lying, basically. They're all lying. Howard Lutnick did it. He chose one avenue. I wasn't seeing that guy anymore. He's a prolific sex trafficker. After that one day, never again. And the next thing you know, he has another argument that has to, you know, encompass the fact that he went down there. Not only did he see him again, he took more people with him, and he took a whole heap and a lot of kids, which is insane, you know. So, you know, how do you make up for that?
On what you've been doing for the past 5 years.
How you make up for it is by making arguments that support it. Now, so he makes arguments that supports either side. You know, that's what they all do. That's what they all do.
You can't just sit there taking punches like this, especially when the British tabs are driving this. Maybe you can go on British TV. Call me anytime. So he is saying you need to fight back against this. Let's get you in front of cameras. Here's what the dialogue would be. Jeffrey Epstein is saying, this is what I could say. This would be the story. That doesn't make any of this true. So you can't be overly literal with someone who knows they potentially are being monitored, who when they have something really serious to say, they say it over the phone. He references that in other emails. All right, let's keep going. So here's an example of an interaction where he talks about not giving specific details by email. There are plenty of emails like this, but I just wanted to give this example. So Epstein messaged Landon Thomas Jr., and basically, after a long explanation of whether or not Al Gore had ever been to the island and so on and so forth, At the end, they talk about this and say phone only, because that means there are details he does not want to give over email. There is sensitive information, and he is aware of that. So anything that he puts in these emails, he is fully aware may be read by other people. So always keep that in mind when it comes to reading through all of these emails. Now we're going to look at a text exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and someone whose name has been redacted. So we don't know who this is. Label it G. That is most definitely not the name of the person. Their name has been redacted. It's just because these were text messages, the data gets a little bit funny, so don't worry about the labels. Anyway, so on December 2nd, 2018, the two of them were having some conversation about some sort of injury that the other person had had. But then on December 3rd, this person reached out and said, "It will all blow over. They're just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that!" Exclamation point. Jeffrey Epstein replied, "Yes, thanks. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down." So is he being grandiose, or does he actually have something that would be harmful to President Trump? That's what's unclear, because later on, we're going to get into an exchange with a congresswoman where he's actively trying to harm Trump. He's actually trying to get Trump taken down, basically. So it's unclear what this would possibly be, if this is just him being grandiose, because he is someone that sees himself as being in control. So when he says, "I am the one able to take him down," that could...
Yo, do you all notice as soon as I invited Itchy up, Itchy left the entire chat? Do you see that? Like, Itchy, where you at, man? This is crazy. This is crazy. I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't understand it. I thought Itchy was going to come back. Itchy ran tail, and again, that's what I'm saying. Like, it just makes you wonder. I want to hear his perspective. I want to hear more from Itchy, and anybody that thinks that there's something wrong that's being said. Why not? But I think the real reason why he's not going to hop up is because he knows I will also have the opportunity to ask him some questions, and it's easier to be in the chat and just be in there. "Why are you doing this to Trump? Leave Trump alone, man." It's crazy, man. I actually want to find out. The main thing that I want to find out is this an American? That's what I want to find out, and I think that's why Itchy didn't call up. I think that's what it is, because you will be able to hear the vernacular then. That's got to be what it is. He doesn't want someone to hear the voice. Maybe it's the voice is going to give it away. That's what I think.
He's grandiose, that he believes that he knows things that are that important. And as we'll see later, he continues to try to assert some kind of control into President Trump's future. So here's an email exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and what seems to be a pilot, although they redacted the name, so we don't know for sure who it is. But based on the context, that's what it seems like. Right here, Jeffrey Epstein essentially is writing out what the pilot should say. This is basically his draft of how he believes the pilot should handle all of these questions. "I only met Jeffrey Epstein after I was adult, over 18. I was never ever his sex slave. Obviously a lurid chauvinistic categorization, which in my opinion could only have been made by some loser of a repressed male reporter. He was always kind, funny, generous to me. These fantasy fabrications made by a delusional thief. Charged with stealing from the burger place which she worked, though she claimed to be paid thousands of dollars in cash and held at the beck and call of the genius tycoon."
Yeah, so he's telling somebody else what to say about one of the people that accused him. Essentially, one of the girls that accused him. This is the response.
I think that the genius tycoon is supposed to be referencing Trump, and I don't know if the fact that genius is misspelled is
you hear that
supposed to be ironic, or if it's just that, much like other areas, Jeffrey Epstein just doesn't spell very well. Her storytelling, had it been done while sleeping, would have been called dreaming, if awake hallucinations, but to the English press they are referred to as allegations. She claimed in the midst of detail her dinner with President Clinton on the Caribbean island, how he arrived by Black Heli, where he sat on Jeffrey's left, a 21st century tale of power, sex, money. The fact that this story is total make-believe, fabricated on purpose to gain tabloid attention, and easily refuted by readily available travel records.
So you see that? So Epstein was making up stories and having other people recite the stories. And in this case, one of them is about Clinton, right? So,
former president.
But it's not the first time. Bannon has concocted a whole thing about Clinton. I mean, it's in the emails. It's all in the Epstein emails. They're talking about it. Bannon is talking about bullshitting people about Clinton through Epstein emails. And now you hear Epstein doing more of it, And so in a way, to me, if you ask me, it's like they're friends, and then they're not friends, and maybe that's where the extortion comes in. And this seems like it's kind of, how he operates, essentially. He will talk bad about you as soon as you're not getting him what he wants.
It defies belief that any person would take seriously such a preposterous story. Little different than her telling her father that she met the Queen. Whoops, he believed her, though her mother at a relevant time complained that she must have been engaging in Satan worship and asked that she be put in a drug room.
You see that? So he's dissing the witness. He's dissing the accuser, essentially, the victim.
I am currently a professional pilot with a spotless record. I have a checklist that I follow before every flight to verify things that are where they are supposed to be. Checking her story, which the press has refused to do, would serve the public well. In this case, human error is merely a euphemism for hijacking the truth. By the person whose name is redacted, they are now asking how my parents bought a building in town, implying it was all the money they got for selling me. Getting ugly. But this shows how Jeffrey Epstein manipulates. He's crafting a story, trying to make sure that he can manipulate people and make sure that they understand. This is how you have to talk about Prince Andrew. This is how you have to talk about President Clinton. You have to make this person, Virginia Giuffre, who made these accusations, seem ridiculous. No one would take her seriously. It's trying to get people to talk in those terms. So he wants to have some control over this. He's creating what people should say. So rather than just allowing this to play out honestly, this seems to be how he operates. Now,
you see, and I thought, Itchy man, what's up, Itchy? Where you go, Itchy man? You don't want to talk about Clinton or Giuffre, or what's the deal?
This is an email exchange,
and I think that's really interesting because Giuffre is one that a lot of people. It does again. I've been saying this for a minute. This shouldn't really be viewed as a Democrat and Republican issue. This should be viewed as an American citizen issue, a sovereignty issue, and people that care should be people that care are people that care about sovereignty. They care about the safety of their country. The party thing shouldn't really be an issue. Like, I don't know where the party, obviously that's a distraction. When people say, oh, you're just a Dem, or, oh, you're just a, obviously that's a distraction to what's going on because none of these people care about any voter. You see what I mean? They misuse voters. And we should all be concerned about that. We should all be stepping up to the plate and rectifying this issue, recognizing it and rectifying it. Understanding that they don't care about any Republican or Democratic citizen. They don't care about the average American at all. The 80, 85, 90% of Americans, they care nothing about. And that's what's being exposed in the Epstein files.
James, between Kathy Rumler.
Anyone should be willing to talk about this.
Jeffrey Epstein. In this, Jeffrey Epstein emails Kathy Rumler with the title Steve Bannon. First, there's a link to an article about Michael Flynn. And then he says,
exactly, Norm,
which has to do with the Trump administration, obviously. And then he says, do you think Bill Clinton would like to join you, me, Ehud, and Steve? Could be very funny, all off the record. Now, just to give you some context of who he's referring to. So the meeting would be Jeffrey Epstein, Kathy Rumler, Ehud Barak, who was a former Israeli prime minister, and then Steve Bannon, who used to work with President Trump, although this was in 2018. Could be very funny, all off the record. And they wanted to include Bill Clinton as well. So this was a real desire in 2018 to get together with Bill Clinton. He proposed that as though that was an actual possibility. This wasn't like it was somebody he didn't know. Once again, they were still talking in 2016. He may not trust Bill Clinton as much now, but he wants to get together with him. He wants to spend time with him. So Kathy Rumler replies, he might like to. His lawyer would advise him against it. And then a little smiley face. Are you feeling better today? So the kinship and closeness between Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton is still there so much that even Kathy Rumler knows he would like to get together with them. So it does show that there was a real relationship, a real connection that lasted at least up until 2018. Now, here's an interaction between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, this is following a bunch of questions that had been sent to Ghislaine Maxwell. Seems like Prince Andrew's freaking out a little bit because these questions are all about Virginia Giuffre. In that situation, Prince Andrew says, in reference to the previous questions that were sent, what? I don't know any of this. How are you responding? Jeffrey Epstein says,
oh, I want Clinton to be public. I think they should all be public. Again, it's the taxpayer who pays for this. The taxpayer who pays for committee hearings, for congressional hearings, for Senate hearings, who pays for the building maintenance, who pays for every person's salary in the goddamn building? The taxpayer. So why doesn't the taxpayer want everything to be public at this point? Like, I don't get it. Yeah, Republic. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I don't get it. Why wouldn't everyone want that? You know, and I just think it's there's a low precedent being set here, you know, and again, it's the same thing with people associated with the Epstein files are being fired in Europe, fired across Europe, kicked out of government, and here we are in the U.S. and we're still trying to find reasons why taxpayer dollars have to keep the Epstein files a secret.
Just got it 2 minutes ago. I asked lawyers to send a letter. Not sure. It is so salacious and ridiculous. I'm not sure how to respond. The only person she didn't have sex with was Elvis. Prince Andrew responds, please make sure that every statement or legal letter clearly states that I am not involved and I knew nothing and know nothing about any of these allegations. I can't take any more of this on my end. Now we're really seeing their personalities come out here. Jeffrey Epstein basically framing things the same way he has previously about Virginia Giuffre, which, this is ridiculous. We got to talk about this as though it's ridiculous. He's going to put that in writing to make sure everybody understands it. And nobody should take these seriously. And that's what he hopes. He hopes that people can just brush their hands of it and go, this is so disgusting. The things are so salacious. No one's going to believe this. They're ridiculous. That's how we should approach it. And he's been very consistent with trying to state things in that way. Now, Prince Andrew, obviously, he seems extremely anxious. You can tell that just by reading this. Particularly, I can't take any more of this on my end. But in this, he is telling him what to do. Right now, we have two very controlling people telling each other exactly what to do here. Jeffrey Epstein's trying to say, hey, talk about this like it's no big deal. That's essentially what he's hinting at this point. Whereas Prince Andrew was saying, you tell people that I had nothing to do with this. I know nothing. I'm not involved here. You cannot involve me with this. So it's this attempt to assert absolute control in this situation and command that he not be associated with this in any way. Obviously, it didn't work. And for anybody who's seen the BBC interview.
Yeah, but this is a lesson on Jeffrey Epstein and how he writes and what his communications are for and how you have to read between the lines, right? But Clarissa said, sorry, both parties had problems, one more than the other, but both of them had problems. Yeah, well, exactly. And, campaign finance is one place to start. There seems to be an easy way for anyone to make a mistake. No real campaign finance laws. No control over, the activities, what people can do when they're campaigning, who they can get money from, how much money can they get from each individual or each institution. I mean, it's corrupted everything. And the mere fact that it takes so much money to run for office always means that the politician who's running is always looking for more money. That's a problem. That's a sovereignty issue. And this is what Jeffrey Epstein was giving money to people. He was yielding anything to gain power, to have control and influence. He was yielding anything, and he was selling the information to others or giving others access to the information, And so really the US and Americans, I think at this point, it's not about Republican and Democrat. I think this point, it's about understanding that something has taken a hold of the U.S. and it is based on a serious level of corruption and a corruptive behavior that has taken place. And that has to be cleaned out before there can be any country again. It's just that bad. So for some people, they look at me and they think because I'm a Democrat, they wipe everything away. Listen, if you think I'm just a typical Democrat or you think Democrats are a typical one type, you're goddamn crazy. You're stupid. Okay. You're just dumb. Labeling someone a Democrat or a liberal. Do you know how many different types of liberals there are? That's just stupid. That's not a reason to not like what someone is saying or to judge someone in advance of what they say. And now MAGA people, they're very, very vast, but they do come around some certain points. They do center around certain points. Certain points are the idea that they can't do math. You know what I mean? They don't realize that immigrants can't be your problem with every goddamn thing. You know, if you're using immigrants to be your problem with why you don't have health care for all American citizens, sorry, it ain't going to pass the math test. If you're using immigrants for the reason why every American citizen doesn't have access to higher education, right? Sorry, your math is poor. If you're using this shit for immigrants for the reason why clean energy, infrastructure and all of this stuff is being withheld across the U.S. or they're trying to, or that tariffs are being levied across to every goddamn ally. If you think immigrants are the reason for that, you're crazy. Something else is going on. And if you think immigrants is more important than figuring out what the hell happened and getting rid of everybody in these Epstein files, you are stupid as hell. Immigrants have in no way come close to the problem these Epstein files present and have presented. I mean, what's in the Epstein files and the activities of these people have produced fruit for these people and produced poison for the American people. So, I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to have that conversation, and I don't know why that has to be a Democrat Republican thing outside of the fact that we know Republicans largely don't seem to have a problem with ICE. And they largely don't seem to have a problem with rigging elections. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they don't stand up for the First Amendment. They don't stand up for the Second Amendment. They don't stand up for the Third, Fourth, Fifth Amendment. I mean, outside of seeing that, Democrats are saying we need the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third, Fourth, Fifth to all be protected. All the amendments to be protected. That's not what Republicans are saying right now. So, yeah, in some general way, we can have that conversation. But the problems should be problems that everyone on every side sees. If you don't, or any side, if you don't see this as your main problem in your life right now, something's wrong with you. Something's wrong. It shouldn't matter what party you in.
He didn't want to have to talk about these things. In another email to Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew says, "Hey there, what's all this? I don't know anything about this. You must say so, please. This has nothing to do with me. I can't take any more of this." So the amount of stress, once again, that he was under at that point must have been tremendous. He must have been very, very anxious and scared about this, because that's how this reads. This reads like someone who is commanding that they insist that he had nothing to do with it, but he also sounds very, very scared. So his idea is to avoid. And that's frequently what we see with people that are anxious. When people get anxious, they avoid. And that was going to be his strategy. Rather than hit things head on, which he ultimately tried to do and it didn't go well, he was going to just try to avoid it, let everybody else handle it.
It's these corrupt people. That's why we don't have a healthcare system. You could see it all in the Epstein files. Look, these people are blackmailing folks. They're blackmailing them to be corrupt, to make sure that the taxpayer dollars are going into their hands. That's what this is about. So, because the taxpayer dollars can't go everywhere. If the billionaires are going to get $1 trillion tax cut, then the taxpayer can't get universal health care and can't get universal education. It's that simple, and this dirtiness, the fact that they're doing it under the table, that they're so corrupt that they have to do it that way, that it's not really based on any real politic that they care to share with people. They embed themselves in political parties. But as you can see, comprehensive immigration reform is not a reality. It's not something Republicans or Trump wants to have. You see what I mean? Every Democrat, every American should want to have comprehensive immigration reform. I haven't met one American that thinks people crossing the border anytime they want is a great idea. I haven't met one. But if you ask a Republican, they seem to think all Democrats think that way. But I've never met a Democrat that thinks that way. But I have met pretty much every Democrat that has said they want comprehensive immigration reform, So it's obvious that money plays a role in the narrative. Social media is backed up by money. Trolls backed up by money. They control the conversation, then they control the elections. The outcome of the elections, then the billionaires and the first trillionaire will get his cut. Nobody else, no matter what you liked, will get your cut. You know what I mean? It's like, and listen, if you think they're getting rid of more immigrants, ICE, by running around on the streets, stopping any old random person, you're out of your mind. No one can do it that way. Now, they are hurting people. They're scaring people. They're killing people. They're making people frightened, scared to come to the United States. And not just illegals. They're making people in general scared to come to the U.S. They're also making other nations plan against the U.S., leaving the U.S. out of business, out of trade. That's what's happening. And the dollar is going down, you know. You know, when you ask people like Itchy, what do they think about the dollar? You won't even get a response. It's almost like he's not even aware the dollar has gone down 10 points since Trump has come in office. You know, there's loads of red flags showing up everywhere. And you just have to be a delinquent, pretty much stubborn or ignorant person to not see the signs. You know, most people around the world don't give a damn if a American is a Republican or a Democrat or independent. That's not how people know us. People know us by our culture. You see what I mean? And but they're seeing something very different from American culture right now. They're seeing an extreme version, a highly extreme version of American culture. Almost, you know, something not just American, but something hostile to Americans. You know what I mean? Hostile to the country, and it's hostile to them. You know, how can you see something as American when Americans have rarely been hostile towards their allies? How can anyone consider it American? But yeah, it seems to be the case right now. And let me see here. Vision says, I just heard a MAGA streamer say America first and America only. What does he mean? Yeah, what does he mean by that? What does he mean by American first? You know, he doesn't mean all Americans deserve health care. He doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean all Americans deserve education, access to education, free and equal access to education. And equal access to education is free. That's how you make it equal. That's how you guarantee anybody that passes the test, admissions test, can get an education, get into class, and get studying, right? You know, but they're not for those things. So they don't really mean America first, the Americans first. They don't. They mean classism. That's what they mean. Classism and racism, and not racism, discrimination, not just race discrimination, not race-based discrimination only, gender-based discrimination, sexual orientation discrimination, ethnic discrimination, depending on which, you know, maybe you could be various, you know, everyone, you may be black, but you may not be black American, or African American. You might be another kind of black. You may be Hispanic, but you might be another, you know, there's different aspects to this, you know. So Jewish, maybe anti-religion or something, anti-Jewish. They might be anti-Muslim. I mean, they are, you know, and it's really sad to see a country that was viewed by everyone else seeing multiculturalism as being a strength. People were like, wow, this is working in the U.S., man. When I go to the U.S., nobody's looking at me like, who are you? And nobody's, you know, Americans don't look at each other typically that way. But now all of a sudden we've reverted to that. Who are you? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you know? And that is so un-American. In fact, it would probably disturb me on the street if anybody ever walked up to me and even asked me that. I would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Both sides of my family go back to the colonial period. Why the fuck are you asking me if I'm an American? I'm sorry. It just doesn't make any damn sense. But this is what you got right now. And you even have people who are going around asking other people, who are you? And their families ain't even been around in the country that long. It is that insane right now. So it's not something that makes logical sense. It's something that is just insane, ignorant, like that, you know, is way out of bounds, you know. But in that point, I could see nobody wanted to hop up. Itchy, see you later, buddy. Next time you come in the chat, you don't hop up, I'm going to block your ass, okay? So, and don't say I wasn't fair about it. You know, you hightail it. You ain't going to hightail it every day. So you got one more chance to hightail it. Then I'm going to block you for, okay? You're going to have to come back with a new account, even though your account is only a couple of years old anyway. So you can get a new one. But in any case, I'm going to be out, y'all. Appreciate everybody for coming out. I got some lovely soup that I've been working on, so I got to go enjoy it right now. We need to fix, let me see, you need to fix the immigration procedures. Yeah. We need comprehensive immigration reform. We need it. We need to know we need to know the various different types of roles that immigrants play in our society, so we know where to fill in the gaps, because we don't have enough. You see, the price of food is skyrocketing in the U.S. Why? Because we chased out a bunch of people that were working on farms. Do we want to pay people more money so more Americans can work on farms? No, we don't want to do that. So something's got to give, something's got to give, and it's, something's got to give, and it shouldn't be the average American giving. It shouldn't be us paying the price for that shit. It should be the people that can afford to pay the price, the people that get top carte blanche treatment out of the American government. They should be the ones that pay the price for shit for a change, And let me see. Does it mean America should be the only country on earth? Some of them are that arrogant to think that. Some of them are that arrogant to really think that. And you have to be extremely ignorant and arrogant to think something like that, because it's nothing wrong with being proud of your country and where you come from. But that's not pride. That's ignorance. To think only the U.S., that's ignorance. That's not a winning combination, man. And contrary to what a lot of people believe, the U.S. didn't force itself into every relationship it has. A lot of people really liked working with the U.S. because they liked options. We may not have been perfect, but you have options on, another option. And smart people don't chase options away. You want as many options as you can have. That's what a representative of a country would want to bring to the table. Options for their people. You see what I mean? That's what it's all about. But you see the MAGA fringe of the U.S., they don't even want options. They don't want options for the people. They want to shut it all down. They don't want to build shit for the people, though, but they want to shut everything, all the options that people had down, and then talk about it. It's like, come on. It's like dealing with some people who are very problematic. So yeah, Bondi is today, y'all. I'll be back. That's why I get the hell out of here. I'll be back in like 6 hours. Bondi is today. She is today. So thank you for reminding me. That's exactly right. And and she gonna be bringing her performance art in Congress today too. No, exactly. But I'm gonna watch that shit. Let me go see what time it is right now. Hold on. Before I'm out, let's go see what time is Bondi going to be in the house. Let's see here. What time is Bondi going to perform today? What is her performance like? Let me see what goes on. Yeah, I'm talking about Attorney General Pam Bondi. That's right. They were like, oh, you mean Pam Bondi from the Department of Justice? Yeah. 10 a.m., y'all. So 10 a.m. is 8 p.m. here. Yes. 8 p.m. here. So I'm going to see you all. That's Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA time. So, on that note, Pammy, she got to show up at the prom this time. She got to show up and shit and give her a little fake me out speech about, we're doing this for the innocent victims. That's why, she got to come and gaslight everybody again and keep them files secret, and why she gets a check. But yeah, I'll be back, y'all. I appreciate everybody. Once again, you guys have been great. And even the haters, don't worry. Itchy, where you go, man? Come on now. Who else was it? Terrell? Let me see. Let's go through the list. It was Itchy Brain. His account was April 1st, 2024. Who else did we have? Then we had a couple of other ones. Let me see. Are there more? Well, anyway, I ain't going to go through them all. But yeah. But they were here to visit. They didn't hop up. But let's see if we can get it next time. Next time the rules are going to be anybody that's in the chat that doesn't understand or doesn't like the programming or can't figure out why everybody's here. We're just going to drop the link and everybody just say, hop up, man. Hop up. Go ahead. Hop up. Because usually it's a person that's trying to hide their identity. So they know that you can tell by their voice, it's going to tell you a little bit more about who they are. It's just going to qualify. But on that note, I'm out. I'll be back. I'll catch up with everybody in a little bit. I appreciate folks for really sticking in there with me and helping to build up my channel. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate it a lot. And, obviously days are different, but I've been blessed the last year. So I'm just very appreciative of it right now. And I'm getting a little better, but I'm going to be implementing some things. But on that note, I'm going to catch up with y'all real soon. We'll be back with Pam Bondi today. So see y'all. Bless.
When he wasn't, but I just back away real cool, no fussing. I'd rather go kicking in the
Impeach
streets
Trump, y'all,
and use the knowledge to collect some funds, open a non-profit and build a damn school. And this is the story of how a great king rules. There's many that claim to know the local demographic, but don't have the nerve to tell you the truth.
It's tragic,
but I do. So sit back and let me spit this shit to you. You feel better when I spit this shit to you, despite the system trying to clamp down on the people. People will learn how to stand up to evil. Not evil that's across the globe, that's too far, but evil that lies in their own backyard. And fighting, it's not an option, they can't win. The government, it's not supposed to represent sin, but then again they do, and that's a problem. So let's go down and figure out how to solve them. It's not fun being a rapper that can't speak, but we do, yes, and plus we make fat beats. Yo, we smoke weed, break up trees, listen, bringing fat beats, that is our mission. You wanted to see us on board, shut up and listen. Thelonious and Big Benny, brother, check the vision. Mentalities of different realities. Into the Star Trek room when you hear the boom. I be the Walkman with the super bass. Automatic stop, yes, stereo cassette player. With the delayer, freaky lyrical sprayer. Extraterrestrial rhyme sayer. I be the poetical VIC/master of the ceremony. Tenderoni, won't you come step with me? I'm on a historical journey. Kinda like Sigourney. Implore me to represent the attorney that represents my niggas, go figure. It's the card, they call me Uncle Bigger. Niggas love your blunts, down your liquors. I read the parallel to the fiction. You're fixated on this brother's nature. Relaxed behavior, I might save your change. Flip it, rearrange the whole concept. You was good for all your brain. Insane, psychotic, neurotic, black onyx, and hooked on phonics. Just atomic, it bleeds like a bonnet. Cut with the Asiatic, they all up on it. Rhyme static with the sporadic type of skill. You wonder, is this nigga Vic really for real? It's still, but only necessary in the very. I'm milk like dairy, they quite contrary. That's scary, but I'm a dog in the prairie. I scurry to grab my bones and just worry. Lyrical flurry, go get your secretary with impeccable diction. My style might vary, so get a hold of your own shit real fast. Fucking with us, we take it right out your ass. Prairie dogs chill while the other dogs howl. Too many dogs get sent to the pound. Back on the hill, me and my peeps just lounge. Prairie dogs, we keep it on the down. Splatter, don't like gun splatter. We try to climb the ladder, wicked men get better. They make it like splatter, but it really don't matter. Cause you know we coming back to our sons and our daughters. To follow him, the one who protects ya. And the mother, she will never neglect ya. Through divine nature, the people respect ya. And in this way I deliver my lecture. want war. Crime babies looking for food, starvation, the recipe, people subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day in every clue. Don't let it go, it's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep. Even 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct. Then I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the brink. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song.
They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war.
Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers. Cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather. I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in the way that's subtle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear, but they won't cause the TV's whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ad, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguise is religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison.
They want war, all they really want is a war.